Now Sweeney, Dwayne Sweeney! Sweeney's over!
Can you please hand it over to your captain, Dwayne Sweeney?
Welcome to Real Tales with Sweens. This episode I catch up with Ben Townley. Ben is an ex-professional motocross rider who has both an MX2 World Championship and an AMA Supercross title to his name. He was racing at the highest level internationally for over 10 years, competing with and at times dominating some of the sport's greatest athletes. Ben is a great mate and someone that has achieved success at a level that most professional athletes dream about. Through this podcast, we cover a lot of great topics and really unpack and detail some of Ben's outstanding achievements. From leaving New Zealand and his family behind at the age of 16 to race professionally in Europe, also how extremely proud Ben is to be a Kiwi and represent New Zealand on the world stage. His epic battle with teammate Ryan Villapoto in the 2007 AMA Motocross season, which is widely regarded as the greatest battle for the 250cc title of all time. We also discuss his MX2 and AMA Supercross bikes in depth and how good they really were, his dream of always wanting to race professionally in America, dealing with adversity and injuries, training with the GOAT Ricky Carmichael, Alden Baker's insane training regime, and also dealing with the anxiety of having two sons compete in a sport that he became famous, the importance he places on his mechanic, and so much more. As always, the show notes will be available on both Instagram at Real Tales with Sweens and the website realtaleswithsweens.com. You can listen on Apple, Spotify, Google and iHeartRadio, and a special mention to the boys Tony and Bobo at Raglan Roast Coffee for supplying us with their newly released Raglan Roast Coffee IPA, which is a beer they've done in partnership with Good George Brewing. It's a great drop, lads, and definitely the perfect match for a few yarns between friends. Lastly, a massive thanks to Ben for sharing his tale. It's awesome for me to be able to share some of his epic achievements with all of you. Enjoy the podcast. Cool, so I'm sitting here with Ben Townley, the Taupo Tornado, and this is actually our second go at this because with my amateur editing skills when I first started the podcast, I had a massive stuff up and ended up wrecking the audio of the podcast, which, I think I nearly cried. I was so disappointed, but with Ben being a good mate and making his time available again, here we are, so g'day Ben.
Do it all again? So.
Yeah, no, we actually both really enjoyed it, so, well, I did anyway.
No, it was good yarn. I just hope it's accurate the second time around, mate.
Yeah, yeah, bro, definitely. And we're lucky enough to be, today I met with the boys at Raglan Roast Coffee and based in Hamilton, so Tony and Bobo, and they have been awesome and they have given us their new Raglan Roast Coffee IPA that they've released through Good George Brewery, so
do the honours.
Yeah, we'll do the honours, we'll crack that open. And yeah, we'll
if I can get back to the days of when I got the placement right.
Yeah, so we'll try that. And
have you ever watched Ken Roxon hold a Red Bull can?
Yeah.
He's been doing it for such a young age, eh?
Yeah.
Just got it down pat.
Yeah.
Yeah, get that logo in the right place, eh?
Yeah. Shit, that sounds good on the pour.
Make sure that stays in the correct hand.
Oh, yeah. I'm a rugby player. Everything's normally left-handed.
Wellington 7 strip, eh?
Oh, yeah. That was
an eye-opener for me.
It was, eh?
Well, for me, because I was like full middle of the summer.
Yeah.
Prime fitness. And then just, fortunately, I managed to weasel my way out of the van trip. Cheers, boy.
Cheers, boy.
Fortunately, I weasel my way out of the rental car trip to. Did you go on the van?
Yeah, I went in the van. It was a big day. Yeah,
I bet
it was a very big day.
Few letterboxes later.
Yeah. No, it's always an interesting trip when our friends get together, and that's something that I will start with. So, I
last time fired out a few questions to our mutual friends. So, and
I don't know if I can be as emotional this time, right?
nah. Well, yeah, but a few of the boys actually got back to me post.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, they're not too good with their timing. So it actually worked out all right that I'd sort of stuffed it up because I managed to get them sort of second time round. So I'll just go over mainly a few key points because I don't know if we'll get the emotion that we got last time. But so something that was very strong that came through is how proud you are as a Kiwi. So that came basically from everyone I spoke to, and if you only have to look at BT's Instagram, and there's not anything that happens in New Zealand sport or in New Zealand in general that you, I suppose, associate yourself to through supporting, through following it, through being invested.
Yeah.
I guess in New
as
Zealand
just
culture.
A fan of, like, New Zealanders doing awesome, especially
Yeah.
on a world stage. Or it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a world.
Yeah.
Just an Aussie, just taking it to Aussies it gets me going.
It does, doesn't it? Nah, cool. All right, and I'll get a little bit further into it, as well as talking to our friend group. I actually had a wee yarn to your young fellas before we got on, which I'll edit into this podcast. I'm not sure at what stage, whether it'll be at the start or I might put it in this sort of period now. So. Okay, so I'm just sitting here with Levi and Jag, sorry mate, Townley. Hey boys, how are we?
Good.
Good, cool. How good was your dad at racing?
Good. Yeah,
Good?
he was pretty good.
He was pretty good.
Yeah.
I heard he's one of the best in the world.
Maybe.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys would have been too little to remember that though, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you hear a lot of people talk about him, about how good he was?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and you boys obviously love the sport of motocross. You really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah, heaps of fun, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys start loving that because that was what Dad did?
Yeah, sort of, but we liked it just as much as he did, and so we done it, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. It's so cool that you boys are so passionate about it.
Yeah.
Makes it easy for Mum and Dad then, eh?
Yeah.
If you boys enjoy it, then they get to come along for the ride with you.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. How awesome is it having someone as awesome as your dad being your coach? So what I just said, he was one of the best riders in the world. So he obviously knows a lot about racing and a lot about bikes and technique and everything. Is it really cool for you boys to have that?
Yeah, he teaches us that we've got a standard and it's high, and yeah, you gotta step up to that every time you ride, and challenges us to get better and better.
Yeah, that's cool, eh? That's really awesome because I played professional rugby and that was the same for me. So it was always, I have a really high standard and I have to keep that all the time. So it's really good that you boys have learnt that so young, and it's super exciting for you guys, I suppose, your future in the sport and where it could go.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. What about you, Jag? How's Dad as a coach?
Good.
Good? Do you listen?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah, you're like my sons. They don't listen to me all the time either. But that's all right, eh? You enjoy it? You love getting out there on your bike?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Thank you, boys. Yeah, it was pretty cool to hear the passion come through in their voice, eh, and how much they love riding. And that's something that we'll get more into further down with the podcast. But I'll continue with some of the messages that came from our friend group. And I think generosity is another big one. So Cody Cooper, very talented motocross rider based here in New Zealand, and has raced all around the world. And you've hit from him, like he just couldn't emphasize enough how much opportunity that you had given to him. And I suppose that's another, we just sort of spoke about it there, you just want to see Kiwi succeed and do well. Was that a big part to helping Cody?
Cody is a bit of a special story for me. Like, we were first rivals, like hardcore, you know, and I used to be so intimidated by him, mate.
Yeah?
Yeah, big time. And then they would turn up, and there were only ones that turned up on like, you know, kind of like footy and like club sort of clothing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I was always intimidated by hard out. And then obviously his father passed away, and he sort of left the moto scene for a bit. We were hard out rivals up until his father passed away, and then he sort of drifted away for a while. And then this guy, I think his name's Peter Pim, his son raced, and then he sort of brought him back to motocross circles, and then we became good mates as you do in teenage years, eh?
Yeah.
And then
Well, you mature a bit more too, and you
Yeah.
you figure out that you're actually really like-minded.
Yeah,
And sometimes that
absolutely.
rivalry stuff
Yeah.
just disappears.
And then he sort of, you know, he got helped out here in New Zealand, but we became good mates, and he just sort of was making noises about getting it outside of Aussie, and so yeah, we made it happen. And Lucy and I were real stoked, you know, to see him do that, because, you know, it was probably a pretty cool achievement for him, and, you know, where he'd come from, you know, with how things went for him, you know, throughout his sort of junior career and stopping and starting again, and without his dad and that. So yeah, that was I was really proud of what he did, man.
Yeah.
He was like, I think we talked about it last time.
Yeah.
He was like one of the fastest riders ever to ride a dirt bike. Had an undefeated season.
Yeah.
And one moto, Cody was about the only guy that got. He almost ended that undefeated season.
Yeah. Cody led him for a long time in that race. He did, eh? Yeah, so that was
Quite funny.
James Stewart, eh?
Yeah,
It was,
James Stewart, Bubba, as most people know
Yeah.
him. But yeah, it was funny, man, because I was full factory Honda guy at the time, you know, so like the most professional team in the 90s, 2000s and that. And I'm like on the side of the track cheering on the Suzuki guy because I was injured.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people remember that race, a lot.
Yeah.
He's known for that.
Yeah, and that's worldwide known too, eh? Because James Stewart was such a big deal that year.
Yeah.
And he was. Well, he did. He had the perfect season.
Yeah. I remember.
And Coops nearly got him.
You'd have to ask Coops to do something with him one day. But I remember he's out of it the way his confidence sort of. He was on the start line and he was beside Bubba, and then Bubba looked down at his rear tyre and then looked at his own one or something. Something like this.
Was this in that day?
On the start line, yeah. And Cody looked down. I got you, man. Or something like that. I don't know, but something to that effect. Yeah. But you can imagine if you know Cody the way he said it, it would have been.
Oh, it would have been funny.
Yeah,
anything Cody says is funny.
Yeah.
I think we might have to get him on.
Yeah.
That'd be a good laugh anyway.
Give him a few of these IPAs and you'll be away.
Yeah, no, definitely. Cool, yeah, and something else that came through very strong is that you're I suppose it aligns to that with your passion, your generosity, but also being really confident to speak your mind. So you believe in what you say. And Adam Norman spoke about a press conference in 2007 during the AMA outdoors season, and you had a go at them about the track conditions.
Yeah.
I
always got pretty vocal and just you know,
which a lot of people like.
Pretty honest is what I am.
Yeah, well, because Norm will be able to put it in better words than me because he's got obviously that moto background. I'm just a fan of it, but I don't know the ins and outs. But he said it was just every single person in racer or rider would have been thinking the same thing.
Yeah, they wanted to say it,
but they just didn't. But BT pulled through.
I probably at times I should have kept my thoughts to myself, but I recall back if it's what he's talking about, just that year I was having a huge battle and the rougher track suited me, and they were just every time I turned around, I wasn't in the same class as Bubba, but Bubba had a lot of pulling power and sway. He wanted it smooth.
Yeah.
And, it just frustrated me, and I just became... just tipped me over the edge, and I let them know.
Yeah. Well, because something that I've noticed, and again, not a very trained eye, but watched a lot of motocross and big fan of it, like really enjoy it. But as I just noticed how smooth you are on a bike, like that's one thing that stands out to me. Like I see other races and they ride, but with you, I just see this like smoothness, like it kind of look, you're a bit like a Ben Smith, like in terms of as a rugby player, it doesn't look like he's running fast, but he just covers the ground and he's so silky and smooth. And for me, that's what I see when I see you on a bike. Is that like a fair comment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool to be compared to Ben Smith.
Yeah.
Not Ben Smith, my neighbour either.
Yeah. Make sure, yeah.
That's Billy.
He was actually, when my first 15, he was in New Zealand secondary school
We all
centre.
have a yarn about that because I find it really interesting.
Yep.
You know what? That he's gotten into moto. And
Yeah. No, that's cool.
But
we'll get to that then.
The smooth riding probably came from because I was pretty overweight when I was a young fella, so I wasn't the fittest, and so it took it out of me, and I had to learn to be efficient. And obviously, when you get a lot fitter, and then you can apply that even more, it becomes a real asset. So that was probably a lot of what that.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that when you talk efficiency, and again, untrained mind to moto, but a rougher track, if you're more efficient, that's where you're going to be successful.
And again, like that was to begin with, it was just because I literally just wasn't fit enough as a young fella. I was just sort of just a real, I wasn't lazy, but I wasn't fit, and so then you learn how to manage that, and then all of a sudden when you do add the fitness side of it, then helps you a lot.
Yeah, no, cool. All right, so we've gone a little bit off sort of tangent there a bit, but that's all right. One thing I did do, and it's probably not going to have the impact it did last time, but I think it's important for the listeners to hear this. But I emailed your wife Lucy, and she sent back this awesome email, and I'm gonna read it because I just think it paints a really good picture of. We talk about motocross. A lot of people think it's an individual sport, but as I know, and as we'll get into, there is a lot of a team. Well, there is a big team aspect to it, but it's just in a different way than I guess a traditional team sport is. But I think it paints a really good picture of Ben. This is Lucy's words when I asked about Ben. I look back on the years when Ben was a professional racer with lots of fond memories. I loved those years supporting Ben. We've been lucky enough to travel the world, have many special friends all around the world through Ben's motocross. I used to love watching Ben race. He always made me very proud. It was cool to experience and to have been a part of Ben's team. Ben's character and his best attributes. Ben personifies determination, honesty, integrity, hardworking with a little bit of OCD. You just need to check out his shed to see how immaculate it is. And tonight I have been in there, and there will be a little bit of video footage that goes up so you can see that. But it's also awesome to see all the memorabilia and stuff in there, and I think I really enjoyed being in there. He lives life to the fullest, loves an adventure. The only time you see him sit down is to watch sports on TV. He always attracts a lot of people around him. He loves a good time, a good laugh, and has lots of mates. He loves riding his dirt bike. He loves being a Kiwi and is a very, very proud New Zealander. He loves good food and he loves his family. If he can have all those things, he'll be a happy man. And she's got here Ben as a racer. I would describe Ben as a born racer. He has a real gift for racing, and he could always rise to an occasion. The bigger the race, the better Ben would do. I never remember Ben being nervous. He always thrived under pressure. He left no stone unturned, and in his training, he was always one of the most hard-working racers. He always gave 100%, never gave up. He loved to win so much that his mind was stronger than his body, and he could really put his body through some hurt. If everything was right with Ben and his bike, he would be very hard to beat. He was always popular at the track amongst the teams, riders and fans. What I really admire about Ben is how much he gives back to the sport. You will not find another ex-professional racer that has given and continues to give back to the sport like Ben. At community level, he is the president of our local club. He spends hours and hours at the club. Ben is very dedicated to his family. He is an incredible dad to the kids and a great husband. He will always put us first. I would describe Ben as more of an old school dad. He has very strong morals and values that he instills in the kids, and he is strict but fair at the same time. Our youngest Dot seems to get away with a bit more than the boys. Ben is definitely softer on her. Ben is getting a lot of enjoyment sharing his passion and knowledge to the boys in their racing journey. He spends many long nights in the shed preparing the boys' bikes and many hours coaching the kids, but he just loves being at the track, supporting them with their racing and being the mechanic. Lucy Townley.
No, it's obviously heard it before, but it was emotional last time hearing it. This time it's different because I can think about a lot of those, parts, of the journey or what I'm doing with the kids and sort of look at that or think about that as you're saying, and it's pretty cool. I mean, been lucky to meet my wife when I was young, and she ended up spending most of my career with me. She only missed the first couple of years, really. So it's was pretty special to have her along that for that journey as well.
The fact that she missed those early years, you'll probably find out as we get into this podcast, is because Ben started professionally at the age of 16. So not too many people let their daughter run off across the other side of the world at 16. No. But it wasn't too long after.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd let them at 18, her at 18 either.
Cool. We'll go on to how we met, and but obviously I've got a lot of friends that are into motocross, and that's where I don't know, I just became this massive fan of the sport. Like, I really enjoy watching it. There's no way I would do it. I would not be keen to try that. It just, it scares me. But I've always been this massive fan of the sport. I used to love going to the track and watching my mates ride, and it just kind of really interests me. And I saw, I suppose if you watch it on TV, you don't really get that appreciation of how hard it is, because you don't see the riders after and what sort of state they're in. But even when I was watching my mates as kids, teenagers, you were professional at the age when I was probably going to the track and watching Jaden and Norman stuff ride, but I just couldn't get over how extremely hard it looked. And I don't know, maybe it was that kind of sort of sparked more of an interest in it for me, because obviously being a rugby player, and I thought I trained pretty hard, but then I watched what these guys look like after a race, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I don't look like that when I'm training. It was really, really quite a physical, demanding sport. And I just always really enjoyed watching it, and through that obviously became a fan of yours. And then I'm pretty sure I became a fan of yours before I realised who you actually were in terms of the people I was keeping company with, like Norman, Jaden, and that. I didn't even realise that, that you would go on to marry Jaden's sister. And at that time, I was like, do you guys know this guy, Ben Townley? And that's all like, yeah. But they, they're Kiwi way, we know him. Little did I know that, he's good friends. I'd always been a massive fan. I watched you race in Europe, and then I seen you. It was actually we found out it was actually the day that you proposed to Lucy. Right. And you were out celebrating, having a few drinks. It was in 2008, and I was traveling down to Hawke's Bay with the Waikato team. We stopped in Taupo for dinner, and I was fanboying pretty hard. I was like, oh shit, it's Ben Townley. And then, I finally built up the courage, and I actually followed you into the toilet to have a conversation, because I was too shy to obviously just bowl up to the table. When now that I say that out loud, it is a bit creepy. But I remember coming in, and I remember saying g'day, And then I think I asked if you knew Norman and Jaden, and then you said, yeah, and then we got chatting, and that was
measuring swords.
Yeah.
You know, I do remember now. It was at, I still don't remember that guy's name, JJ. That's all I know him as. But he's an ex-Waikato player that where you guys top for a feed, and I had sort of shaken down and stumbled onto one knee earlier that day, and we were having a few drinks to celebrate. So yeah, and then obviously from my side, you know, like I played a little bit of footy when I was younger, but then always had an appreciation and, you know, pretty passionate, you know, Waikato person, and then Chiefs, and you know, and then obviously All Blacks. But so it was pretty cool to see the team, and obviously then get to know you as well, because it's always unique when you are a professional athlete, being able to know someone in a different professional sport. I always find that quite interesting, for sure.
Yeah, well, I actually found that it really kind of reignited a fire in me, almost meeting you and just getting to know you more on a personal level, because I saw the way you trained, the way you prepared, and obviously with it being an individual sport, but we'll talk more about the team aspect but further down the track of it. But I was just, I couldn't believe the self-motivation that you had to go through, because what you were doing, like, you know, during our, I suppose, our summertime, which was your off season, is you were just putting your body through hell. Like, you were training so hard, like extremely hard, but you got to do it all on your own, you know? Like, you've got a team that helps you in terms of, you know, like Lucy does an awesome job at home and with the kids, and we didn't even have kids then when we first met, but, you know, she's always been a great supporter of you know, you didn't have to worry about dinners and all that sort of thing. She was always there, that side of it for you. Then you have a mechanic, you know, that's sort of helping out with the bike, and you might have a trainer that helps you with the program or whatever. But when it comes time to put the shoes on to go for a run, or, you know, get on the bike and train, it's not like, oh, hey, bro, I'll meet you here, let's go. It's like, no, you know, you're talking to the mirror. It's like, let's go, I'm off.
Yeah, that I guess when you put it like that, it is a lot different probably from what it is for you as a rugby player. But then I didn't know any different either. And you do at times partner up and whatnot.
Well, I suppose Cody would have been good.
Yeah, like you do at times, you know, like you'll maybe go for a mountain bike or a cycle, but as a rule of thumb, you're pretty individual. And I guess I don't know any different. So I learned pretty young, you know, like that. I had someone. Well, you know, if we fast forward to when I became a pro, you know, I learned pretty quickly that it was a major part of it, and I was on my own there, or certainly for the first part of when I went overseas. So you just have to crack on. But I think you feed off that success, and you want to. You know, it helps you improve, and you realise, well, if I keep doing that and putting that effort in, then so I never. Once I became a professional, before that it was a little, it was a little different for me, as we'll probably talk about. But once I became a pro, then you know, I really got stuck into the off the bike training.
So I spoke about it a little bit earlier, but you went pro at 16, and I just find this part of the story so fascinating, because when I think dirt bike rider or motocross rider, I think farm kid. And especially in New Zealand, like, you know, like it's a farm kid sport. Like all my friends that did it all grew up on farms, and that's why they had motorbikes, and that's what they did. And then I find out that you grew up in Taupo, in town, and your dad was a builder. So where did that? I suppose we'll start at where did the passion for dirt bikes come from to start with?
I think. But the very first memory I have was so friends of mum and dad, their son, he had a PB50 little Yamaha 50cc bike, and I don't know how or why, but I ended up going riding with him on the side of the road. You know, you drive through Waitanui and you go up the big passing lane there. It's on State Highway 1, like, and he was just boosting around there, and I had to go, and I was just keen as mustard, and I would have to double check this, but I think I was, pretty adamant that I needed a bike, and then a bike arrived at Christmas, and then just got. So Taupo was wicked for me at the time because the track is where it is now, but which is basically in town, and
it is pretty handy,
yeah. And then the track was, or the facility was probably 3-4 times bigger than what it is now. So you could it was just like a kid's playground. Like it was like heaven for a dirt bike rider then, and it's still pretty cool now. But like just in terms of you could explore, and I started riding there when I was 6, and then I just carried on. I just carried on riding. Up. It's called Digger McEwen Park. So he was the guy that put like heaps of effort into getting it set up and established. And mate, I just spent hours and weeks and months and years there just riding, and it was pretty cool because obviously you're not being a farm kid, but the access to that was pretty not easy, but like as in, it was accessible, to go and ride, and it felt like my own little farm at times, where you could, go riding. And I used to ride there a lot on the weekends, school holidays, daylight savings hours, So I spent a lot of time burning. Sometimes I always wonder how many hours or how many thousands of litres of fuel I've burned at that place, and I still do now, just at that one track. Yeah. Because that would have been, if you would record how many hours I've done, that would be the most. Yeah. So the place I've done the most hours. Yeah. So that was where it sort of began for me at the age of 6. And
did you start racing then?
Yeah.
At 6?
Yeah. So just racing.
So you're pretty much like straight into racing?
Yeah. I vividly remember my first ever race.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I remember it because I did something wrong. Like I cheated almost. Well, I cheated, not almost. And I couldn't get past this kid, and there was these like, what seemed then like these massive whoops, big rolling man-made obstacles. I couldn't get him, Just went outside the track markers and made the pass. But that I can still vividly remember that. But so that Taupo has this really cool, and it was the first one ever in New Zealand to have a separate track for little kids. Oh. They still have that now, and that's where I rode there for about a year and a half, and then I graduated out onto the big track, and then a lot of the Taupo track now is still as it was when I first rode it. Yeah,
wow,
so
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, spent the
so
years.
So it's 30 years now.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. I thought that was bit of a joke to start with, but
But we're 36 now. Well, I am.
Don't
Are you
remind
36
me. I don't know, man. I've lost count.
I stopped counting at 24.
Yeah, far out. And so then I spent the years of must have been almost 8. Moved on to that, to the main track, and rode there until I turned 16, and that's when I obviously went overseas.
Yeah. See, it's funny, when you talk about it like that. It's only 10 years. You spent 10 years there, and then you're you're a professional motocross rider. Yeah. You don't. And at that age, time.
You don't stop to think about it like that. No. It all happens pretty quickly for sure. Yeah. Makes you, as a father, makes you go, whoa. Yeah. When you put it like that. Mm.
Yeah, because Levi's
I heard
10
the boys
now.
saying, they've been riding bikes for 6 years,
Yep.
Goes fast, man.
Yeah, so then from there, so you're 16, so, back when we were at school C, fifth form, then all of a sudden you're on a plane, you're going to Europe at 16 to be a fully professional motocross rider. How was that, were your parents all for that?
Yeah, they were, because
they knew that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, a couple of years prior to that, they really took a bit of a, not a punt, but I guess a big investment. And we went to the States for about 6 weeks, I think it was. And that whole idea around that is I've been making a lot of noise. That's where I want it to be. You know, if we sort of wind it back a bit, you go through that period of, becoming a junior rider in New Zealand, which is sort of 8.
Yep.
And then by the time I got through to about 12, I was like watching it religiously. My nana we didn't have Sky, so she'd tape it on a what is it?
VHF, was it?
Yeah,
VHF?
I don't know, whatever you call
VCR.
it. VCR, is it? Yeah. And then, I'd get that on...
Kids won't even know what those are.
No, they're just straight to the...
YouTube.
It's live, even if you don't have it. It's live within a few minutes, man.
It's crazy.
It's crazy world. And so I'd get that, and I'd just watch that over and over until I wore the tape out and magazines and whatnot. And then I was just hell-bent on being a pro and wanting to be in America racing. So I was making that noise probably, 10, 11, 12, and then when I was 13... my parents took me and we did a few events and I did pretty well. And so obviously from that day forward, it was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be a professional racer. Never really had goals to be like a champion at it. You
just wanted to do it as a job.
I wanted to do that as a job. And I don't even think I knew what a job was at that point. That you'd get paid to do something that you love to do.
Yeah, you thought you could just go and race at these big events, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so then, and then all of a sudden, the end of 5th form year, we had our nationals. Strangely enough, but it just obviously worked in my favour. But they were in the spring, so November that year, October, November. Normally they're in the sort of late summer, and they were that time of the year. And this guy from Europe. It was just the stars aligned, man. Like no other, And
but life's that, opportunity. That's what I've kind of learnt, and
timing,
through doing this podcast, some of the guests that I've spoken to since we caught up last, that's life, and it's all different. Different angles of life is that. It's just like opportunity comes, and if you're ready. And you take that opportunity, your whole world changes, your life changes.
Oh, that's
in one little moment,
That's what happened here. Yeah. So, he finished at Nationals, and that was right, School C was right in the middle of it. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, just get this out of the blue phone call. Are you interested in racing in the World Championship next year? And I'm like, well, I don't know, I can't really recall the mindset. I could imagine me being me. I was like, well, I'd like to be in America. But because that was totally my dream was America. And then quickly sort of come to understand from mum and dad that, well, hey, look, we really probably can't take you much further than you either can do some racing in New Zealand and Australia in the next year, probably stay at school, or here's this opportunity, here's a golden ticket that where it'll lead, we don't know. And so then I straight away went to the mindset, well, if I take that opportunity, maybe I could do something with that and hopefully get myself halfway back around the world to the US, So that's where I changed quickly into, and then, so then trundled off to Europe with mum and a couple of bags, and she sent me up in an apartment and then boosted home and off I went. So,
Offer comes through, you have this conversation we just spoke about with your parents and you say yes. What's that time frame?
Weeks. So I want to recall roughly late November, and then the guy that was starting, this was a startup team, he came out in early to mid-December. So a few weeks. And then that was all signed and sealed. So he was doing business out here, or sorry, he had an international business. He had something similar to Polar heart rate watches, a German brand, and he was expanding that. And I don't know how. I don't even know his full connection to motocross or how he got into it. And then so that was mid-December. He came out, and then by sort of late January we were off. So it was a pretty whirlwind.
It's quick.
Couple of months, and
are you training real hard then too? Once you made that decision, are you I
don't even think I know what hard training is at that point. A few mountain bikes here and there, and maybe the odd run and
up at the track riding.
Yeah, so that was we didn't know any different really, But I think the biggest factor that quickly changed, I still recall now, is just actually learning what's it going to take when mum leaves to sort of just fend for yourself in life. Because like we'll talk about it later, that's probably the hardest. The pieces of the puzzle are that actually getting on with life over there. The riding is very similar. The bikes still have round wheels and the bars are the same. The conditions are slightly different, but man, you go to a supermarket or try and go and do your washing or do all that type of stuff. It's a way different aspect of what I'd been in December and January. And prior to that, mum doing washing, you just turn up to the dinner table, eat, maybe wash up, and so that whole part of it was a big learning curve. And I remember them trying to take me through that in those couple of months for sure.
Yeah. You touched on it there about conditions over there, and that was something that we spoke about last time, which I got awesome learning out of, was the diversity of New Zealand tracks and soils. And do you want to talk about that in terms of how New Zealand, I guess, set you up?
Yeah, absolutely. I say that quite often.
And the competitiveness as well with the Aussie boys coming over and that.
Yeah, sure. So there's a few things. I think the biggest factor that New Zealand has in its favour is it is relative. Well, it's a very small country, but we have a huge diversity in soils. You can ride on not quite the same sand as what you'd have in like that Holland, Belgium area, but it's close. And then we certainly have the tracks that are pretty hard, like clay in the Pokakoe sort of area, or Paretonga, North King Country down Tikawiti area. So we have that full spectrum and everything in between. And obviously all 4 seasons here, which you get wicked conditions of hot and dry in February, and then you in some muddy conditions through the winter, and all the other primo areas, but in sort of the autumn and spring, like at the moment, the dirt's primo. So you get that full spectrum of riding, and it certainly prepares you for Europe really well. America's different in that respect, but certainly when I started in Europe, I never felt like I was outside my comfort zone ever.
Oh, yeah.
But for Aussies, it's quite different. Just, even 3 hours across the ditch on a plane.
Is everything hard there?
Yeah, it's a smaller window in terms of their track diversity.
Yep.
And they do have it in spots, but because Australia is so big, you don't travel around as much and get that diversity. Yeah.
Too
so
far
that's
to go.
Yeah, I reckon historically why Kiwis, or one major factor of why Kiwis have been so good. Certainly the mud riding aspect was a big factor. Big factor in it, just because you do get shitty conditions in Europe, and we have that here, and you just sort of feel natural in it. It feels pretty normal. So that certainly was a big factor in it for sure. And then obviously New Zealand competition is extremely high nationally. It really is. I'm not quite sure. I don't know. I haven't worked it out. I don't know if I'll ever work it out. We don't seem to transfer that even to Australia for most riders. They can ride the wheels off the bike here on our shores, but as soon as they have to get the passport out, it just changes for them. Yeah. But when the Aussies come here, they seem to bring that standard with them, and they travel better, and it's really lifted the standard of our sport.
Yeah.
And it's been real competitive here nationally for a long time. I think in 2018, was the first time an Australian had won the premier title in New Zealand since Jeff Leask in the late 80s or mid 80s.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it gives you an idea, mate. We've had a Scotsman, we've had Aussies, we've had all sorts come here to do our national series, and it is a short one, so it is normally 4 rounds, so it allows internationals to come in and do a pre-season here. Mate, no one's taken that crown since for, it was like, I think it was just over 30 years.
Oh, that's crazy.
32 years.
Yeah. And I suppose because I know I've seen firsthand the infrastructure around those race teams in Aussie, because I went over there with you, compared to what our boys do it here. Like, most of the boys do it here off their own bat.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're working full time to fund their own motorbike.
Yeah.
These guys are getting full factory rides where everything's laid on for them, and, you know, they're coming over here, staying in hotels, getting looked after, and the rest of it. Got their little team around them. Our boys roll up with a high-ass van with their bike in the back, and so that it's crazy to think that when you think of what they have to come over here with, and then what our boys, you know, that Kiwi ingenuity, like the old number 8 wire, just make it work, make it happen.
I mean, the carpet gets rolled out for Aussies when they come here. Like, it really does. A lot of that's due, not so much from, certainly not from us as riders, but we respect them, but more from the brands, because the brands are subsidiaries, you know, of Japan, and they're usually managed from Australia. Usually is how it is set up. Like,
well, their market would be bigger than ours.
Yeah, exactly. So currently Kawasaki, I think, and Honda, but they're only sort of privately owned. There's, out of the 6 brands, only 2 that are privately owned.
Yeah. So
it's they roll the red carpet out for those other brands for sure, and it's just due to the fact of their sales volume, and they're able to, you know, leverage off of that to bring them over here from Aussie. I mean, so so it is. I think it's been a, you know, pretty good standard here locally or nationally for a long time, and I remember at times coming back when I was at my peak in Europe and barely being able to put Cody away. You know, like, he was all over me. Like, mate, you gotta lay off, pal. This is my off season. You know, like, I still remember that at Whakatane at Summercross, 2003, and this is when I went the following year and became world champion. And Cody was just all over me, mate. Give me all I could handle. Yeah. And I was on a factory bike that day.
True.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the best ever one. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
He loves that bike.
One of the best ever 125 2-strokes ever made.
That one you were on
that day. Yeah.
Was it KTM?
Right at the end of we'll probably talk about that.
Yeah.
But right at the end of the 2-stroke era, and KTM were just dominant, man. Yeah. And I could barely shake Cody.
Yeah.
So the national standard here has always been high. I've probably really said that a lot, but it really is, and it's just a shame. I feel it's a shame that we haven't been able to leverage off of that and have a lot more accolades in this country for motocross, the sport in this country.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, like how it just hasn't transferred out. Like, you know, you did it, like you went out and you've been successful, and it'll come through more and more through this podcast in terms of what you've achieved. But it's the top 2 inches. Man. Yeah, it is. It is.
It is, really is, and it's become really evident even since last time when we did this take one. I've been working with a young female rider now for it would be coming up 3 years actually, right? Because it would be. Yeah. She's got to the point where she's looking at some international aspirations, and I can see that she has that. She carries that anchor, and I say that I use that term a lot in our sport. They tow that anchor around because there's some type of a mental block there that's not allowing our riders to ride to their full potential. Yeah. So
is it sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but just want to jump in. Is it that perception? Is it a perception thing? Because I know for me, like, I remember when I went into like professional footy, it was like this, like, and I even remember at early parts of my career when I was sitting on the sideline on the reserve bench and looking at the field, I was like I train with these guys full time. I'm in the team. I end up playing that day, but I'm looking at them like from this weird angle of just like, whoa, can I actually go out there? But I'd been doing it for like 4 or 5 years, and I was still looking at it and thinking that in some way, is that what they see when they see America and the big lights, and they see Europe and these massive events? Do they just, and we don't obviously have the scale of events here. Like obviously the standard of racing is high, but we don't have all the, I guess, the lights and cameras around it. Is that so they just think it's almost like this magical place that, and they can't block that part out of it and focus just on the bike and the race?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah,
because all I can tell you, I went through this very thing today on a small scale. But I honestly cannot answer that question because I'd be. I feel like I can say that I'm good at coaching, and like I can. How do I say, like, analyze and dissect and give feedback really well, but that thing I can't work it out.
Yeah,
I cannot work it out, and I love those big moments, man.
Yeah,
live for that moment of like, right, I've done all this work this week or over this time or whatever it may be, and like here's the time the gate's going to drop, and I'm going to. I want to achieve my goal, and I'd have no idea, man. It frustrates the hell out of me. But I go back to this female rider, and just started since we did take one. She started working with a mental skills coach, and I'm so intrigued to see what comes of it. And like I went through this exact same thing today. I just started coaching this rider, never coached him before, and while he was doing his warm up, his dad was saying to me how he really struggles on race day to have confidence. And this kid today, I worked on him with one specific habit that he's, I'm all about. When I coach riders, like this kid's racing nationally, he'd be at the top pointy end, and I'm all about, doesn't matter if you're at his level or you're a beginner, using the correct skill set. It's my philosophy of coaching, is that I believe if you use correct technique and that skill set's applied, just corner after corner, lap after lap, moto after moto, you just develop confidence, and from that becomes
consistency.
Speed, right? Yeah, absolutely. You're consistent what you do, confidence grows, you just get faster. I don't have to tell you, dude, you need to hit that corner faster. It doesn't work like that. It just
happens.
It happens because you're doing things correctly, right? Mate, when I watch this kid, he should be doing far better than he is. Like, really rides a bike well, but obviously there's some fog in there.
On race day.
Yeah, like his starts today were like as good as any other rider that's winning championships in New Zealand, but probably won't be able to replicate that if we raced on Sunday.
Yeah.
I just have no answer for that. It blows me away.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're born with that or if you. Yeah, hopefully will be really interesting to see if a mental skills coach can, because we as a sport, man, we're so nationally so poor in having the full spectrum of preparation. Like you would struggle to see someone if you came to a race this weekend doing a warm up.
Yeah.
This it's just it's not like it's frowned upon. It's just like it's almost like it's uncool or.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like we just don't do warm-ups. You remember when I started using the TRX to warm up?
Yeah.
I don't think I'd done a warm-up until I went to Europe.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd never ever warmed my body up before I got on it. On a motorcycle, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy, eh?
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's such a bad culture, eh?
Yeah.
And I think the mental skills part of it's never been touched in New Zealand.
Yeah.
I did a little bit 2012. Yeah, a little bit then, just because I'd had some real struggles with injuries.
Yeah,
but I wasn't struggling to go fast or it was a different scenario for me. But probably should move on, man. You could just go round and round in circles all night on this and get nowhere. And I hope that. I could someday soon put a finger on it, but it's certainly
because it could be, like it's such a weird space, eh? Like,
Yep.
it's just, like, I've been talking on this podcast to, I had Anton Leonard Brown on, and he was awesome. He, like, really opened up about, I suppose, his anxiety and how he didn't detach his emotion from his performance. So everything relied on how he performed, his way of life, how he was as a person, changed off how he played. So he talked about finding a neutral point and just being a consistent person day to day. And then, like, obviously, if he had a good performance, he'd be proud, but it wouldn't change who he was day to day. Like, he learned to just be where, when he was younger, if he played well, he'd be up and he'd be almost, like, I guess, for a better word, like, into a bit of a cocky state.
Yeah.
And then if he played poorly, he'd go the complete opposite way and be really down, negative, like, not want to talk to anybody, close himself off. But he figured out that he had to get this consistency in him. And so he was just consistent in what he did. And then performance, he'd be proud if he played well, disappointed if he didn't, but it wouldn't change his day-to-day habits and how he treated people and everything like that. But it's just, and I think through talking with it as well, like, I think about my early part of my career, is like I struggled with anxiety, but anxiety wasn't even a word that was used then, like early 2000, like, what's anxiety? No one spoke about it. It was, are you nervous? And I don't know what, it is, like, nerves are a sign of anxiety, but it was probably just a little bit more to that for me, like, because, I was just so scared of failing that I would hold myself back from situations on the field because
really?
I wouldn't want to put, when the game was on the line, I would try and avoid the ball, because I didn't want to be the one that stuffed it up.
Yeah.
But once I learned to deal with that and learned that failing was okay, and I learned to fail every day at training, I pushed myself to the point where, I can't hit a time in a fitness drill, or I, throw a bad pass because I've just tried to let it go instead of being conservative. Once I got to that point, then I started to be able to have impact on games and execute big moments and be the one that threw the last pass to give us a try to win the game, or to be the one there to catch the ball and put it down to win the game. But before that, the couple of years prior to that, there's no way I would have put myself in that situation. I would have purposely, like, and I can vividly remember it in my mind, like, slow down not to get there, knowing full well I could have got there, because I didn't want to be the one to drop it, or didn't want to be. And my Super Rugby debut was like that. We had a chance to beat the Brumbies, and ball came out. We ended up losing by 3 or 4 points, I think, and I got the ball sort of 20 metres out, no one in front of me. Lily and Masunga outside me still, like, we're going to score. There's only 2 or 3 minutes left, and I just drop it cold. And I've never had bad hands. Like, that's one thing I've been very lucky through my career. I've had good hand-eye coordination, probably from growing up playing different sports and cricket and things like that. But that's one thing that I'm lucky, and I work hard at it too. But I've always had good hands. I just drop it cold. I dropped it cold, and I was not in a good space after that game. Like, it was a bad night all around, but lucky enough that year before, Warren Gatlin had really helped me with being okay with failing. And I was gutted because I didn't perform well on my debut. Everyone wants to play well, especially their first game of Super Rugby. I didn't. But then I end up, 2 weeks later, get another opportunity and ended up getting man of the match. So I was, I managed to flip that around, but it was all through Warren Gatlin teaching me that it was okay to fail, and being that coach and that role model. Was like, it doesn't matter if you make a mistake. Like, I need you to make more mistakes, because it means that you're putting yourself in a hard position, and you're actually working harder, and then you're going to see growth in your game once you learn to fail. And then just flipped my whole mindset, and it was just timing for me. Like, he came at the right time of my career, and and it just turned like that for me. But everybody's different. That's the hard bit, eh?
Yeah, it is, mate. I guess in our sport, like, I left when I was quite young, and I sort of just never really had an understanding for what it was like to sort of succeed nationally at all.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I succeeded nationally as a junior, but then I didn't have like 3 or 4 or 5 years here where like I was, you know, when I was talking about those years when New Zealand motocross has been so strong, I wasn't here and I was just sort of battling away in Europe to make my name there, you know. So I wasn't in a position where I was. I mean, I learnt to win as a junior, but certainly not for a while as a pro, I guess, you know. And so I was just always trying to be better all the time. The first few years for sure.
Oh, cool. I do want to talk about the first time I got to see you race at that professional level live in 2010 at Redbud. Like,
yeah,
for me it was, you know, because I'd seen all the work go in and then I would watch, you know, on TV, but to actually be there and at the race, and I was disconnected. I'd seen you train and I'd been there firsthand, and you know, spent nights at your house when you're training and things like that, but I'd never been there like in a race week, so that was something for me.
Yeah.
I've been playing professional rugby for 9 seasons at that time, so I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome to come in and see what a week's like and everything and how you build and prepare. And you guys go through the ringer like during the week, eh? So can you talk about like I suppose that week, how hot was it? Like 38, 40 degrees every day, 90% humidity.
Generally
in
plus
Florida.
35. Yeah. Plus
Every day, and you're going out there and you're full race intensity minus the crowd and that
and the adrenaline
adrenaline, but you're full race intensity 3 days a week.
Yeah,
so you're
it's
basically
crazy
playing 3
when
games.
you put it like that. Yeah, I don't know. No one ever does it differently, so you don't know if it's a negative. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like
Everyone just does it that way
because that's how it's got to work hard.
Yep.
But when you put it like that, man, you're dehydrating yourself on the daily.
Yeah.
You're just expending so much energy, but it's perceived and as a tough sport, man. It is. Like once you get that helmet on and you got goggles on, all that protective gear, man. It's like it's hot, it's gnarly. You have to be able to go through that during the week to then be able to. Be able to execute that on the weekend.
Yeah. So just on that, has there ever been weeks where you've been sick or injured and haven't been able to put your body through that, but then raced on the weekend?
Yeah.
How did it go?
So I purposely did that once.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just to try it.
Well, no. What happened was this is sort of we're going to jump in and out of times in my career right now, but when I was 2007, which I put, you know, as even though I didn't win my best ever racing form, my trainer, I was spent, man. I was probably...
That was Eldon Baker,
It was probably second or third to last round.
Yeah.
And he went to Europe with another rider at the time for a week. And I come home from the race. I'd had my worst race of the season. It was like I think like a fourth and a third at that point. Like it was... You know, I was racing either for a win or second. There was nothing else. And I had a fourth and a third that day, and I was just spent. And I just took the week off. I just lied to him, blatantly lied. And
said that you were doing the training?
Yeah, it was a second to last round. Yeah, second to last round. And I went to the last round and just felt so much better. Yeah. It's, but I guess that's different because that had built up from...
Yeah. You got a lot in the bank.
Yeah, I'd been training pretty hard for 11 months at that point. You know, so that certainly was a bit of an eye-opener for me.
Yeah, because that's as professional rugby players, that's what we do. So our campaign is they normally go on a 4 or 6 week cycle. We'll go, you know, like pretty much 4 or 6 weeks, and then have a deload week, and then up it, and then
interesting you say that.
So they increase again. So it'll be, you know, for you, how many rounds in a?
It starts in January 1st, and if you race a 450, you got 16, 17 rounds, in 18 weekends.
18, okay. So there's only 1 weekend off.
It's Easter. They don't race Easter.
Yeah. So for us, that would be, I guess, like Super Rugby. So we do like a big front load preseason.
Yeah.
We play under fatigue through the preseason, build it right up, basically taper right off in that first week, So you feel real fresh, but you've got all that, I guess, in the bank. And then then we play, and then that following week it goes a little bit over what week 1 was of the previous block, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you're pushing a little bit further, but then you take it off for a week, drop it back down in terms of load, so less running meters, shorter training times, not as intense in terms of lifting in the gym. That all drops away for a week, and then you go for another 4 to 6, depending on the trainer and the organisation, but another 4 to 6 week block, and then you'll have another deload week, and then it goes again. Yeah. So that, I wonder if anyone did that in racing.
Yeah, well, so when I started training in America, when I moved there, and the guy Alden Baker is, he's obviously renowned now, but he starts pretty much November 1st, and you do your pre-season, and it's a pyramid style, so you build up till about early December, and then you taper slightly, but still with real high intensity. And then you have like a real, what do you call it, like a deload?
Yeah, deload week, yeah.
Just in the Christmas, and then racing starts at New Year's. So you just sort of...
Oh, okay.
So you have a big pre-season up till Christmas, basically. Then a bit of a deload, and then you just do maintenance through the whole year. But maintenance for a rugby player, maintenance for motocross riders, just... You do at least, at the very minimum, 2 race days in the weekdays.
Yeah.
So if you race on a Saturday, you do now, and for motocross or supercross, you race on a Saturday, you travel home Sunday, you'll do some recovery training when you get home, and then you'll have a race day.
You come home and you went straight on the bike, I'm pretty sure, and you were gone for like 2 hours.
Race day Monday, race day Tuesday, a day off the bike, but still
like
training.
A rider.
Like bicycle or run or swim and gym. Race day Thursday, and then fly to the race Friday. Train, recovery on Friday. Yeah, a race. Yeah, and just do that. Yeah, it takes a toll, man. Yeah, it really does, and it's funny talking about that because I was watching right now. It's a weird scenario. Obviously, all sports weird right now, but watching one of the best riders in the world, Eli Tomac, at the moment, and you can tell
he looks burnt out.
You can tell he's not far off retiring, man. He's just
he got his Supercross title.
Yeah, but it's just like being on a train and you just on there, man.
It's a very young man's sport.
You jump on and you just get in there.
You just balls to the wall and then you just... Because that's what I've kind of noticed, like you watch through the history of the sport, like these guys go up and they hit this peak, but it don't last long.
No.
Like it's a couple of years maybe at that point, and then they pretty much, like they go boom, 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 win title, and then they just stop. And it's like,
RC, Ricky Carmichael, he lasted the longest. He's the greatest for people that are from outside the sport.
He's like Richie McCaw, Dan Carter.
Like he is the best motocross rider of all time. Oh, sorry. Yeah, off-road rider, motocross and supercross, And he lasted the longest, but he probably set that new standard late into his career of what we have to do or what professionals
Okay, so was he winning before he...
He was, but he didn't
dominate like he did once he went to that training regime.
Yeah. And that training regime was, believe it or not, there in the early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Late 80s, early 90s. And then, then it changed to just, riding, beers, smoking dope. It changed heaps. It was like a real Southern California thing.
Yep. Like a bit of a, I guess, that rebel sport.
Yeah, that was just a lot. Everyone hung out. They didn't really train that hard.
Yeah.
And it was just a way different scene.
Yep.
And then he just changed the game, really. Yeah, and then it hasn't changed since. The ante has just upped since then.
Yeah.
But you're right, because you look at Ryan Villapoto or Ryan Dungey. Now you're starting to see it a little bit with Eli. I'm probably missing someone in there along the way. Bubba.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's just, you just get fried, eh? If you're in that real upper tier, that there's usually only 2, 3, max 4 guys
Yeah.
that are in that tier that can
Or Roxon.
Yeah, exactly.
Or he's just taken time out, isn't he?
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's only usually a small select few that can maintain it, and it's not for long.
Yeah.
Yeah, not for long. Not at that standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a grueling sport in that way. But like just going way back to how we started this.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's possible not to do it like that, but then I don't know because no one has tried to do it half-assed. Or not half-assed, but like
in a different way.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I call it half-assed because that's how it would be viewed.
Yeah, Jason Anderson, he's a bit of a free spirit, bit of a
he is.
And he was under when he won, he was under Alden Baker though, eh?
Yeah.
And he hasn't won since he went away from him. Yeah.
Nah.
He's a different dude, eh?
Awesome dude, man.
Yeah, he's always got his shirt out, like, you know.
Free spirit,
yeah,
man.
bro. Like,
it's pretty cool. Like, he just is him.
Yep.
And that's why it didn't really work with him.
With Alden?
With Alden.
Yeah.
Alden's from the army, so he's just a regimented man.
Yeah.
Like, full regiment.
He wouldn't like Jason Anderson's long hair and shit.
Then, would he just wouldn't like the shirt hanging out to start with. But, so Alden, like, that regiment comes in and it's just in everything you do with the guy, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's for me. That's exactly like Gordon Titchens.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you
exactly
go.
the same. So there's certain players that can do that and sustain it for. I don't know how Tim Mickelson did it or still does it now for so long. Like, but it has changed. The environment's changed. The training's changed. But not too much. But what I find in rugby, like you talk about there, like Ricky changed the game and it's just stayed like that, and then all it's done is gone up from there. But rugby it goes different. So I remember that, like, I'll use Super Rugby as an example. So when the Chiefs won their back-to-back titles, 2012 and 13, their whole mantra and whole mindset was about being the hardest working team in the competition. So the Waratahs won in 2014, the year after. So Chiefs went back-to-back, then the Waratahs won 2014.
Yeah.
This is how crazy like that mindset is, and what you said about Ricky. The Waratahs had a cowbell. So this is a team based in Sydney. They had a cowbell, and because the Chiefs had been the hardest working team in Super Rugby, that's what they come out and said, because that's how they won their titles. So the Waratahs, when they trained, they had a cowbell on the sideline every training, and if they felt like they trained harder than the Chief, they walked off and they rung that bell at the end of training.
Wow.
So their whole mantra was built around what the Chiefs had done.
Yeah.
But what it showed, the Chiefs model was unsustainable. Like a lot of player turnover, a lot of injuries. A lot of the guys that won those two titles in 12 and 13, I came into the team in 14, sort of 6 rounds in as an injury replacement player, and they asked me the question at the end of the season, like, what do you think that we didn't win because you come from the outside in? And I was like, well, the guys you had playing in the final last year, none of them have played. We've had them for 3-4 weeks, and then they get injuries, and then they got niggles, and I just said I don't think the model's sustainable, in terms of how hard the players are working. Like, it just seems to be too much, and you could probably get success through that, but it's going to be a lot of turnover, and there will be years that you're going to lose. You're not going to get the I suppose the most talented players. You're thinking about a big group. You're trying to basically get 50 guys, and if you're turn them over all the time, like there's going to be downfalls in that. You're going to have slumps in form. But then, so 2014 that happens. 2015 the Highlanders win. So the Highlanders beat the Hurricanes in the final, and the Highlanders' whole culture or whole mantra, their whole mantra of that team was built around having a good culture. So then now you see the Crusaders and what they do.
Yeah, okay.
The Crusaders have always been extremely successful, and they have a very good winning culture down there. But then Scott Robinson comes in after that, and he builds a team all around culture. Right. And then look how successful they are. Yeah. So it goes and flows. So rugby probably changes more than motocross does. Basically Ricky set a standard, and it's to stay that way. But, if somebody bucks the trend and wins,
Yeah,
what's going to happen then, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So if Jason Anderson all of a sudden goes away from that and then comes out and just starts winning all the time, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I want to be more like Jason Anderson. He doesn't actually work as hard, but
I
he's
can tell you
focused.
what, a lot of people want to be more like Jason Anderson.
Yeah, but it is. It happens, like, and it definitely happens in rugby. Like, someone does something, they do it well, and everyone's been trying to copy, the Crusaders forever, but no one knows what they do. Same with the All Blacks. Like, everyone tries to copy what the All Blacks do, but by the time you're copying it, they're doing something else. Like, they've moved on.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to sort of reference that in motocross terms. Like, I certainly know that Aldenbach, he's been extremely successful. There's no denying that. But
does Eli train under him? His dad's like Alden, though, eh?
Yeah. His dad
He's
was
strict.
like Ricky Carmichael in the mountain biking scene. Like, he's like a god.
He's real famous,
And I've been on the inside of Alden's thing. It was just simple, man. It was super simple. It was just really regimented. You got up each day and you did your work, and you made sure you did it to the best standard you could, and then you did it again tomorrow and the next day and the day after that, and it just compounded, Yeah, so it was. I guess
so it's not a lot of rocket. It wasn't rocket science.
There's no rocket science, man. Like before that, I'd been in Europe and I'd get like regular blood tests to check levels and like go to a doctor, to make sure we were always, in tune and physio and whatnot. Like, he did none of that. He was just like, nah, you just got to work hard, and if you get sick, well, you can have enough time to get better. But no, just like I'd go and get like secret blood tests just to make sure I was all good, like stuff like that, because I'd been successful in Europe and I'd seen that, how they did it. Like, Europe's the opposite, man. Like, everything's done to like a real science, whereas with Alden there wasn't. The science was at that stage wasn't in there, and I'm sure there's more science now, but it certainly was all based, and I know it still is now, based around that work ethic.
No, cool. All right, so we'll jump into Europe now, since we're talking about that. So we'll go to 2004, so your MX2 World Title. And when I did the research on this, for this podcast, like, the one statement that came up was like, when your bike functioned, you were unbeatable. So it was like, it wasn't just, you were competitive, and Lucy mentioned it as well, when your bike was, functioned, you were the best. So what was 2004 like, the MX2 World Title? Can you talk to us about that journey through that season?
Yeah. Well, starting way prior to 2004, with the end of 2003, KTM, they were in the, like I said earlier, they were so strong in that two-stroke era with 125 two-strokes.
Oh, can you talk to us about that difference there, the two-stroke and the four-stroke?
So two-stroke obviously had been raced pretty much since 70s, maybe. I'm outside my depth now, but and certainly in the 80s, all through the 90s, and then Yamaha came out with this revolutionary four-stroke, and all of a sudden that was the direction we were. And I think, if I'm correct, a lot of that was driven by market sales in the US, mainly California, because of emission laws. Emission laws were starting to change, and and that was all a big discussion point at that time. And apparently four strokes were way better for the environment.
Yeah, well, I heard about this in New Zealand with Norm and that. Like, it filtered all the way down here about emissions.
Yeah, so the emissions were changing, and we had to have four strokes because they were just...
Yeah. Well, I heard they were going to ban two strokes forever, because I remember all the boys buying a two-stroke brand new. They're like, this is going to be the last one they ever make, but they still make them now.
Yeah. Well, Honda didn't. Honda stopped.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they put their line in the sand. Yeah, so end of 2003, I was factory KTM rider. So KTM was the only European brand at the time, based in Austria, and they said, we've got this four-stroke, pretty keen for you to test it. So flew down to Austria and they took my race bike from that current race bike and put it up against this prototype, and I instantly within minutes, laps of riding, I was like, man, this is the bike for me.
Yep.
And I had the opportunity. I was the only rider in a 4-man team that at that point to have the opportunity to decide what I'd prefer to do.
Oh, yeah.
So
what did the other boys, did they have to go to the 4-stroke, or were they?
One had to go 4-stroke and 2 had to stay on 2-strokes.
Okay.
So
then you had the choice.
I got the choice, yeah. And so, I decided to do it. I just felt comfortable. It suited my style. I felt it. I'm like we talked about earlier, I'm quite efficient and calm and it's
smooth.
Yeah, smooth. And it suited my style. And KTM, they're really good at the time, they were really good at building the smaller engines. So the smaller engines being a 125 2-stroke, or the equivalent was at the time a 254 stroke, and I could tell straight away there was something special about that bike. And
it's sitting behind us now.
Yeah. And
I'll get a photo of it, put it up.
Yeah, it was special, man. It was like a cheating bike, really, like a legal cheating bike, basically. it was performance wise. It had when you have inside your engine, you have cams, and they're usually driven by gear, by chains.
Yep.
But that bike there's driven by gears, and it was really quite for its time. It was quite torquey for its time in terms of a 4-stroke, and it made massive gains for me and my style. Like I could adapt to it really well, and didn't have to rev it at all. Whereas a 2-stroke, you have to rev a lot, and it just was. For me, it just was fit like a glove, basically. That design of that engine was so temperamental because of that very design, and they actually never even put it into production.
Okay, So that was just a race bike.
Race bike, and it never saw the production line.
Yeah.
Well, that internal part.
Okay.
But that made it very fast.
Yeah.
Is my understanding. That was a big factor in it. And then, so I went into the season with that under my belt. And the biggest factor with that bike, if you have a look on the handlebars, is that you've got all these levers to start it. Like literally, you've got an auto decompression lever, so you have to get it in the right point to then kick it. And then you've got a hot start, which controls the air in the carburetor. And I could.
So you didn't want to stall it?
No, I could stall it, and that'd be race over for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was a mission for me to get started. So, but I didn't.
That was quite a common thing with the 4-strokes, because I remember watching a lot of the races, and you'd see guys would fall off, and then they'd be kicking the bike for ages trying to start. Yeah.
And that bike though didn't just stall, like it would
die.
Completely just disintegrate.
Oh yeah.
Internally, just they just weren't far enough along with development, really, and probably should really have never pulled the trigger on racing it. But luckily enough, at the end of the day, we were able to win the championship. But it was the amount of wins that I got that probably allowed me to win the championship, because there was a lot of zeros on the scorecard.
Yeah, well, I looked at that when I looked on the stats. You can pull it up, and there's heaps of, it's like first, 0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not through...
Or DNF.
Yeah, not through major crashes. I think I had one crash that resulted in a DNF that year.
Yeah.
But the rest were all problems with the engine. But... I mean, that's just talking about, that's getting a little bit too negative, but it was certainly an amazing year. I was able to, I think there were 36 motos in the season, and I won 20 odd, something like that. So it was a good year for me. I sort of came into my own. 01 was my first year in Europe. 02, I started to sort of find my feet. 03, I had a devastating injury, but that was really early. It was actually in the off season, to be honest, of 03, and started to find my form again at the end of 03, and then that just carried me into 04. So, yeah, had a good off-season. I think we spoke about this last time. Had a really good off-season in New Zealand. So I came home and spent... I had a bit of time off, went down South Queenstown for the first time ever, got that out of my system, and then come back and just trucked on with training through late November, all through December, all through to the end of Jan, and then went back for the pre-season racing. So I had a really good off-season here in New Zealand, pre-season, and because when you go back to Europe, or when I went back from here in late Jan, February into March was pre-season racing. It's a lot different now, but you have races that you do just to shake the bike down, and you get a lot of race time under your belt.
Cool.
National racing, like you race like say the Italian Championship or the British Championship or whatever it may be, and that all went really well. And obviously just rolled that in and had a really consistent year. Yeah. Although I won a lot, the only times that I had a bad race was when I had a bike malfunction. So, it was a strong year for sure.
Yeah, and then world title.
Yeah. So Ireland, August, and I think it was August. Yeah.
Is that when you locked it up?
Yeah, August. Yep. And
was it the last round, or
no?
You locked it up
couple
early.
Of rounds to go. Yeah.
That's when you got Lucy to fly business class.
A bit of a balls up, really. Mum and Dad came over to Germany. There were a couple of weekends prior, and one of those, I had a bike malfunction. Yeah.
Oh, so you could have locked it up.
Yeah. Could have locked it up then. Yeah. Bike malfunction, and then So, but I remember, pretty vividly going to the start line, knowing that, if my bike was good, and I would win just about every time I went to the line. I just felt confident, and I was just probably just that little bit faster on most conditions, and I had just that confidence.
Yeah. That diversity, from here.
Yeah, and the confidence, I just sort of grew that confidence from this beginning. I went to that year knowing that I should be, I should be the world champion if it all goes well.
There's a lot of confidence there when you're going in with that mindset.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. And it's that all came off that build up. Like 01, 2, 3. Although I had the injury, but I was in that mindset of, I want to be the world champion here pretty soon, and I'd built that momentum prior to that year. So that was all the reward of doing that time and getting into that position.
Yeah, it's funny, because you think, I think about it with footy, and when you turn up and you got confidence, like that doesn't just magically appear. So you're going there to the line, and some people will listen and go, "Oh, that's cocky." It's not cocky. You've done the prep. You've done the work. You just said it there. 2001, 2002, 2003. There's 3 years of racing professionally.
Yeah.
Thousands of hours of training gone into that point to you pulling up there. There's tens of hours of training a week leading in. You've just said it. You're racing 3 times a week before you get there. So it's not like, it's not cocky. It's confidence in what you've done to get to that point. And we spoke about it last time with you talked about when you look at your career, when you had a good off season, then you have a good season. That's that preparation again. So
we talked about that last time. So 2001, that was when I started. I didn't know any different, right? And then I sort of, got into being a professional that year. And then I started with a trainer, and a physical trainer, and he's put me onto a program at the end of 01, but then mainly the main part of that was to get ready for the following year. So 02 was a really standout year. People didn't even know my name, and I showed up at the first race and got on the podium. I put that down to what I was able to do in the off season, really. And you obviously had a great 2002. Probably could have been a lot better, but just sort of was still pretty young, and made some, foolish decisions, just, and then 03 was like I'd already had set the goal that, I could have a crack at the world title, had that injury, but that again happened in the off season, and then got myself back on board, and then back on the tracks again, and then 04 or 03, 04 off season was really good. Obviously became world champion, and then 05, just I never really had a really good off season, and then it straight away showed instantly when I lined up for the 2005 season.
Yeah, because I want to talk about that. So you go to MX1, which is MX1's the premier class. Can you just explain that quickly?
Yeah, so in motocross you have your two categories. You have the pinnacle of our sport is riding in this day and age a 450. That's the pinnacle of our sport, and a 250 is your. How do you explain it? I don't know how to explain it that well. So it'd be like university American. If you looked at American sports and looked at
like college
NFL and college type of thing, would be the best way to explain it. So the college class being the MX2 class and MX1 being the premier class. So still really really high standard in MX2, but you're just on a lesser capacity bike, and with probably to an extent lesser the experience of the riders is lower, whereas the depth of the field in MX1 is it's so deep, especially in this day and age, it's extremely deep. So moved into that class. So became, and really looking back in hindsight, I should never have gone. I should have stayed another year and gone for another world championship in MX2, but I was just it was just me in a nutshell, just always in a rush, I just want to be better. What can I what can I do next? More can I do? What can I do next? Yeah. And so I signed with KTM to move up. They didn't have anyone, they hadn't had success really in that class ever. In the MX1 category, they'd never had success. And to be honest, it was a bad decision riding their MX1 bike, so their 450 at that time, it just wasn't a good decision. And
because they went a different direction on what you tested, eh?
What really sort of compounded on that is how it works in our sport. I don't know if it's the same in rugby, but you start your season and at the start of the year, because that's how we sort of run on seasonal. So you start your season, you get through to sort of May. You've only just got, I don't know, a quarter of the actual races under your belt, and then you start talking about your contract for the next season. That's kind of how it's done. Especially if you're the number one pick for teams, it's kind of
they're after you're there,
the cards are on the table and everyone's moving their chips around, And so I was
quite hard to focus, eh?
So midway through that season, it was D-Day. It was time to decide on what was going on. So I feel like looking back, and I got guilted into staying with KTM. They're very good at picking youth up and locking you in and taking you on this journey, and they managed to sort of convince me that I should stay with them. And probably wasn't the wisest move, but I just probably didn't really have that person. Dad was back here, mum was back here. I didn't have that person that could really help sort of guide me and advise me. And so I decided to stay with KTM, and that bike that I tested in the middle of 2004.
So you're testing a bike while you're still racing? Far out.
Not even it's the same capacity. It's
it's the Model Up.
It's the Model Up, So didn't have a lot of experience, but that bike did, and I still to this day still feel like it was good what they put under me. But then if you fast forward 6 months, when we came back for pre-season testing, they'd scrapped that engine idea. And completely gone another direction, and that. As soon the moment I rode it, it just didn't feel comfortable under me. And I think I told you.
Did you voice that when you were?
I was frustrated.
Yeah.
At that
Ben
time,
Townley a few years later would have told him right there and then.
probably. I at that time of the year in those conditions, you probably don't notice it as much. I was just like, man, why would you do this? More like,
Yeah.
But in Europe at that time of the year, it's softer soil and you're probably muddy, and I wasn't really in the zone either. Like coming off a very, very poor off season. Like I'd celebrated being a world champion way too much, and just wasn't in shape. So there was a lot of factors, not really, I didn't have all the cards sort of in order at all, and then got the season started quickly. It was very evident I wasn't fit enough and wasn't strong enough, and
you won a race early though, eh?
Yeah, it was just a gift, a real gift. So just the conditions and the way, the factors of the front pack, just the cards fell my way and I won.
Opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And right spot, right time type of thing. And then the season got rolling and I was pretty average, like nowhere near what I expected, what anyone expected of me. Although, like, I'm talking, I was sort of top 5 guy, I wasn't challenging for wins. And then I had a real special relationship with my engine builder from 2003 and 4. So when I was on, KTM or all brands, they have their premier team and they have their MX2 team, and they have that same type of development and resources, but just at a lesser scale. Yeah. And one of the guys in there, he was a Dutch guy, and we were really, really close. And he pulled me aside. So when I went from the MX2 team to the MX1 team, he didn't come with me. He stayed with the MX2 team. And then a few races in, he sort of pulled me aside and he said, that bike is just not working for you. And I was still pretty young. I was still 19 at the time. So I just rode with just a lot of enthusiasm. I worked around, I still do. I still can easily work around a motorcycle and make it work. Yeah. And he suggested I try riding a stock bike. And you can imagine you're riding in the premier category in the world on what's meant to be the best machinery that this factory, this brand can give you. And I want to ride something that any
mass production
Tom, Dick and Harry can go in and pay $15,000 New Zealand dollars to buy. He's like, you bolt your suspension, your special levers and handlebars and ride that. You can imagine trying to tell
a multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was, I just wasn't performing. I knew it. Everyone knew it. So I gave it a crack, and was just instantly could tell that, and testing-wise, that I could handle the bike better. It was less power, but it was more usable power for me, and it just gelled with.
So it wasn't jerky. It was just smooth.
Nah, it was easier for me to. I was in control of it as opposed to being just a passenger at times. Yeah. So then we had to make the decision.
This is what
yeah. So like you've got like this Finnish dude that's just got the personality of the door behind me. And he's built their engines forever and a day, and his core role has been to like
build this motor for you.
Yeah, just get as much horsepower of that engine. And here I am saying, well, I'd prefer to just take that one that you've got on that bloody production line over there and chuck that in. And it caused a bit of animosity. But yeah, I mean, what happened after that was tells the story, brilliantly. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So as soon as I started racing that, I won 4 motos in a row on the trot, just straight off the bat. Yeah. And then I went on to go.
Are these like dominant wins too?
Yeah. Very. Yeah. I mean, there was some. Like in France, it was 42 degrees. It was extreme heat, and the guy that won the world championship, he's like the greatest rider in the World Championship 10 times, he had a bad day. Like it did look better than it was, but still I was going to win anyway, even though he had a bad day.
Yeah.
And and then continued on that type of a trend the whole season. So I went from being a guy, I don't even know where I was in the World Championship at the time, but like basically got within contending and ended up third in the World Championship and was a contender. If I wasn't winning, Josh was winning. If it wasn't Josh, it was Stefan Everett. So like the three of us were like but at the start of the season, mate, I was at the back end of the top 10.
Yeah.
So that, and I'm not saying it was all the bike, because I certainly didn't prepare well at all, and I was certainly riding that wave that when you went from being at the top end of the MX2 category to just being, like one of the big fish in the pond, I wasn't the big shark type of thing, So, so that was obviously a factor as well, just the depth of it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then once I got onto that bike, I just hit my stride. I was obviously, I don't know, probably want to say 6-7 rounds in at that point. So fitness is coming back, and form was there, and so it was just all all come together at the timing came together when I got on that bike. Because it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't ridden that bike.
Well, that's crazy, because we've spoken about it before, but the teams are effectively a marketing platform, aren't they? So the age-old adage is what wins on Sunday sells on Monday. But what actually wins on Sunday, they don't sell on Monday.
No.
Do they? Because it's full factory. It's just the plastics.
It's
and even
just
the plastics.
Colour.
It's the cut. Well, it's not even the
right.
plastics. Because the plastics are different.
And
they
it
got
is just
sponsorship
this
and
old age type of mentality around marketing. That was how marketing was perceived, as you go racing. And if you do well on that motorcycle, it's bound to return sales. And
but
to a certain extent, it still is viewed that way in America.
But then if they really knew that you were riding a stock, but anyone leaked that out?
Nah, not really.
Was that like a known thing? Did the other racers know?
I can't recall that, but it certainly wouldn't
I
be
would have
something
ridden past Stefan Everett and gone, I just beat you on a stock bike.
It's certainly something that they wouldn't have wanted to be.
They wouldn't have wanted out there?
Nah. Not
I suppose it looks bad on them, doesn't it?
Not in bright lights. Nah. And certainly it would cause a lot of animosity, going that direction. Also because, like, although we're on the same brand, you've got a guy trying to tell a superior team, supposedly, that you're not doing a good job with this engine, that didn't help. That just fueled the animosity. But at the end of the day,
you proved it right.
Yeah, and they won. And that's what you're paid to do. And we did get on a pretty good run. Not just for me, but
can you talk about that run with you and Josh?
That was pretty cool. Like, that's still for me very, very special. Like, so I think it was France and Italy, or Italy then France, one of the two. I don't know which direction it was, but I won 2 motos in France, 2 motos in Italy. So on the trot, that was 2 round wins, and then we went to Sweden and then South Africa. And Josh and I battled like to the bitter end in Sweden in both motos, and he got me both motos, so he won 2. So a Kiwi had won now 6 motos. And then we went to South Africa, and Josh won the first moto there, and I think I got 3rd. And then the second moto in South Africa, Stefan Everts, something happened. He was waving to the crowd. I don't know the full story, but he crashed. And he got up and he was still leading, and you know how we have hand guards? And I think his hand guard got jammed in the front brake lever, and it kept jamming it on. And Josh passed him and won. So Kiwis won 6 motos in a row. And it's, mate, I don't think it would ever happen again, ever in history. It was an amazing run. And pretty cool. Like Josh and I, we were living in the same house at the time, and it was. I don't know really if we realised how special that was. I don't think you do ever at the time.
Nah, you get quite immersed in what you're doing.
History, you're just not really. It's just not really relevant because it's right. What do I got to do tomorrow, or to be, in the next day, and you're just sort of living right then and there,
Yeah.
But looking back, that was very cool for the sport, and something that I don't even think a lot of Kiwis probably recognise, but I certainly do now because of, I guess, more highlighted because of the fact that we don't have Kiwis racing internationally at the moment, So I think that when I look back on that, that was a dominant time for New Zealand motocross.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Pretty cool to think, two people from the same country living in the same house, just dominating the World Championship for 4 rounds.
Yeah, a month.
You
put it that way.
Yeah, put it that way. Yeah, a month straight.
It's so because you guys are on different teams too.
Yeah.
So did you guys train together?
Or
do you go to do you wake up in the morning, have breakfast, and you go to KTM's facility, and he goes?
No, we up until 2005 we did. He took me under his wing quite a lot, and we did.
How long had he been there prior to you going?
99er.
So a couple of years.
Nah.
Oh no.
97, mate. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not too good with years.
Yeah.
He'd probably been there.
But he'd been there like he was.
Nah, shit. I went in 2001. He must have been there in 97.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
So he had a fair bit under his belt.
Yeah, for sure. Man, he took me under his wing. He was a factory rider when I got there.
Yep.
And just guided me.
Was he MX1 then? Or still
Yeah,
MX2?
it was a different category, but you would define that as MX1 at the time. And then that was the first time we ever raced each other, was 2005. But did we train together? Yes and no. As the year went on, we probably trained less together, but we still ate dinner every night together, and did hung out together. And you got to also remember, like you'd know about this. Like there's rugby players on the other side of the world. You're in a foreign culture, and you just sort of draw to people that are from similar cultures. If not Josh, who was from my own culture, So
well, that was like for me when I played in Japan.
Right.
Like all you're doing is everywhere you go, you're trying to search out the Kiwis that are over there in those teams, and you make a big effort to go and spend time with them because you just you miss that. You miss home. You miss your home culture, your home humour. Like New Zealand humour is so different to anywhere you go. I imagine when they come here, they find our humour weird, but it's just what you know. Yeah. So you search it out, you look for it.
It never got really tense, I don't think. Not that I was young, so but Josh, he's a pretty happy-go-lucky person as well, and we raced pretty hard. It only ever got close once in England. I think I was more annoyed about the situation than he was, but there was probably nothing in it. It was just me being young and fiery. But it was cool. It was very, very cool time for sure. Yeah.
No, that's cool. So we'll go from there to America. So you dreamed of going to America, and it's come up a bit already, talking about training with Alden and everything. So, and very similar situation to you and Josh, except this time it's with a teammate. So Ryan Villapoto, you and Ryan are in the same Kawasaki team in the 250 class. And in the you won the Supercross title. Do you want to talk about that first?
Moving to America was always my dream. That's if we rewind to what we're talking about at the start of this conversation, is that going to Europe, when that opportunity to go to Europe came up, it wasn't a dream of mine. It once I got to Europe, I set goals and whatnot, but it was still my intention that I wanted to race in Europe. That was where the long game for me was, and achieving my dream. But now obviously it had changed because I knew the career and what you could achieve and
Yeah.
and the financial benefits of it and whatnot. So it had obviously changed, but I still wanted to
race in
end up
America.
there. Yeah, that was still my, my vision there. So got the opportunity had come up. It actually came up mid 2004 to race there for 2005, but I don't know why. So I decided to stay in Europe, and then obviously came up again in 2005, and made that call then that yep, this is time to go. And 2006 was a horrid year. I probably made a bad decision, or the wrong decision. I moved to Florida to train with Eldon, and Ricky Carmichael was sort of at the tail end of his career, but he was still very dominant at that point, and it wasn't the right time for me to be there. I should have been based in California with my team, around riders that were at my level, around my team that they could help guide me. But I was really isolated in Florida. No team.
Yeah.
I only
Was the
rode-
team all good with that, or was
yes,
there a bit of
because I was
pushback?
yes and no. Because I was with Ricky,
Yep.
it was seen to be like, mate, how can that be a bad decision?
How
And
did
it
that
wasn't
come
a bad
up
decision.
too? Like, how did?
Well, Eldon was becoming quite obviously known,
Yeah.
with Ricky, and then I had a South African agent at the time,
Yeah.
and I asked them to make contact, and they hit it off, and Ricky was sort of at the point where he was happy to have Eldon let someone else into the program because he knew his years were
Coming towards the end.
Yeah, coming towards the end. So he was happy for Eldon to start working with someone to transition with. So that's how I got the opportunity to
Were you
do that.
like fanboying hard when you turned up and seen Ricky?
Just like any other
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah.
You're no different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the first time I met him was in Europe, but then to actually go to his facility, because he had a private facility, and the gates really, no one had been inside the gates, at that time. This is sort of in the early days of YouTube and sort of, people gathering content on films and that. So no one really knew what was on the inside of that. And when I went in there the first time and he was there, and it was pretty special to have that opportunity. Was a lot different then than what it is now, in terms of social media and all that. So to go inside there and then get to sort of be shoulder to shoulder with them each day, training off and on the bike, and get to see the inside of how he did it. And that was pretty special, really. But in saying that, that was probably a year too early for me. I should have spent the first year in California and just got a little bit more experience under my belt and been around. Like Ricky would lap me in a practice race situation, So like I was way outside my depth there.
Yeah.
And he only had
been like, oh my god, I'm terrible.
Yeah, he only had one track.
Yep.
So he obviously he'd had years under his belt by then. I'd never raced the Supercross, and so riding on one track, I quickly got the rhythm of that, or within sort of a certain amount of days, got the rhythm of that. But each week you have a different track at a race, so you need to understand how to look at new obstacles or different, what we call rhythms, so that the obstacles in different orders and be able to. And I just wasn't getting any that type of experience either. And probably the biggest factor, the number one factor, is going from Europe, where the riding hours were substantially less than what American riders do. Oh, okay. And with Eldon, he had massive hours off the bike, and Ricky's mum set the schedule on the bike, and they were big hours, and no one would back down. They were just like as stubborn as each other, and Eldon would say Ricky needs to do this, and Ricky's mum would say Ricky needs to do this. There was just...
And then Ricky just had to do it.
Ricky just did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his body had become accustomed to it because he'd ridden so many hours prior to Eldon getting on the scene, and then Eldon gradually brought him into that, whereas I just went right off the deep end into that program and that ultimately saw me get 2 injuries in pretty quick succession, I believe, looking back at it.
Yeah.
And then the second injury was ACL, and obviously that was a 6-month rehab, and that took us out into the middle of 06.
Yeah.
And then I sort of took some time then to actually get into the program or become accustomed to it, I guess, because I did a lot of off the bike training, recovering from the ACL, and so I got used to the amount of hours, and then was able to then sort of
transition into the bike and doing both.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was away after that.
Yeah.
So then had a wicked off season going into 07.
Yeah.
And that led me into the championship in Supercross.
Winning the Supercross championship, and then we'll go forward into the motocross season. So your teammate, so Ryan Villapoto, it's you and him. You talk about like Cody's race going down in history. Like, people will know him for that, but everyone knows you for that.
Yeah,
like, I think in motocross circles, like everybody knows the tale of that year.
Yeah, because you two still talk about that a lot. Yeah.
You guys were just so dominant. And to put it in context, it's like the All Blacks and the Wallabies sharing a changing shed before a Bledisloe Cup. Like that, it is, isn't it? Your bikes are side by side. You get changed, and you're part of the truck, which is next to him.
Yeah.
And then you step out, get on your bike, and away he goes. What was that like?
Yeah, it was. I guess we both had good respect for each other, first of all. So that that didn't create any. There was no animosity there, and you talk about your team within the team. I had Lucy, and I had a practice mechanic, and he came to all of the events. He helped me a lot. You just need that support network around you, and he had the same, except his entourage was about a mile long. By the time you added up his brother and his sister and his mum and his dad and his trainer and his trainer's wife and his grandmother and his grandfather, and but everyone on both sides, both camps had respect for each other. So that was obviously a big part of it, I believe.
Yeah.
But
that's interesting, because it's super competitive. And it's pretty cool to hear that.
I think that the biggest factor is in terms of when you're in 2 totally different teams, you have this fierce rivalry because you're trying your team as well as you is trying to be better than the other team. Whereas when we were under the same tent, we both knew what each other had. We had almost identical engine setup. Suspension was slightly different because each rider had the ability to tweak that and have their customized setup. But you knew that basically everything you do during the week, that was really what you had to then draw back on race day, because you knew that in terms of machinery, you were on identical machinery. Really. Yeah. So it came down to the person who made the first mistake, and that was me.
Yeah. Like in doing the research, I looked at the points table of that season. So this is the top 3. So you got Ryan Villapoto, 544 points, and how the points works: 25 points a race win. Yeah. So 544 points. Ben Townley, 525 points. And then third is 346 points. So there's like a 200-point gap.
Yeah.
So
crazy,
that's 10 race wins, pretty much.
That.
Like 10 race wins,
crazy,
difference to third.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
phenomenal.
That season, there's 24 motos, and we won between Ryan and I. We won 23, and the 24th moto was one. Ryan had a shocker of a moto, and I came out of the start gate and got off balance, and I caught my front wheel in someone's foot peg, and it ripped all the spokes out, and I had to do a pit stop and change the front wheel. So 23 motos that we won between us. So it was a strong season.
Yeah.
Again, that bike was phenomenal. It was kind of like the KTM, a little bit of a legal cheating bike. When I say that, like it's not like we were cheating. It was just that.
It was that good. Yeah.
That good. Those two bikes there, they were phenomenal bikes. Yeah. Phenomenal. Yeah, they were sort of, like you talk about timing. Like they're a huge part of my success those 2 years for sure. I guess the KTM is different to the Kawasaki in a big way. They're both 250s, but the KTM was like a true prototype, and they just nailed things for that to be that good. Whereas the Kawasaki was a build up from 2003. That amalgamated and then just
4 years. We've got this nailed.
Got this thing dialed.
Yeah.
That when that thing starts, it just sounds. Like when you're in town and you hear like a Ferrari or a Lambo coming, you know, and you're like, oh man, that's just so different. Yeah. That was like what that bike was like. It just had this note like no other bike.
Yeah. People would have feared them, eh?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they just.
Here they come again. Yeah. They would have heard you guys coming up.
It just has this note, that bike. It's got this rasp to it. That's just like no other.
Yeah. It's cool like that. In sport, there's such a big thing on sound. Like I reckon, like you hear a nice cricket shot. You hear a nice kick in rugby or a big hit. Like there's something to sound.
That's
like
true.
I really dig that. I really like the sounds in sport, and I would have loved to have heard that thing.
Yeah, that's like the start of a moto, eh? Especially if you're quite a way away in the pits and you're not actually watching the start, and you hear that, like it's like an amazing roar, eh? Yeah. You've got you hear this build up of revs, and it's stagnant.
It hits like this note, and it almost disappears, eh? Yeah. It almost goes silent when all the bikes are revving on the line. It hits this note, and it just goes to it's like noisy silence, and then the gate drops, and it's just this thunder.
Yeah, it is. You're right. Yeah. So 2007, that was a little bit bittersweet. I mean, it's it got so close. Yeah. But at the end of the day, Ryan was better. I faltered first. It was Steel City, Pennsylvania. Yeah, and just we had this teammate graduate from amateur racing, or we call it junior racing, but he graduated from amateurs in America, and he was drafted into our team. This is what they do each year. They take at least one rider and they draft them into the pro team. And he started way out wide, and he got just an absolute pearler of a start, and he just swung across the front of the start into the whole shot corner and just caused carnage.
Oh, did he?
And I went down. Yeah. And I remember getting up and just seeing Ryan's name and his, on the back of a motocross jersey, you've got your name and your number, and going, oh, thank Christ he's here as well.
Oh, yeah.
But he just did such a better job of
picking his way through, getting out of it.
He got back to second, and I think I got back to fourth. Yeah. And then that was in the next moto.
Is that when you did your tyre?
No, the tyre was early on in the series. Oh, yeah. I got ninth in that moto, but he had a bad race as well. Yeah. But it's just, and then I got. He was able to come back and win the next moto, and then just started to. We went in at that point tied, and then I had just two bad rounds in a row. Really, more bad in the grand scheme of things. They weren't bad, but when you're tied for a championship, every single point is quite dramatic at the end of a championship.
Yeah. It's crazy. There we've talked a little bit about the bike, and something that I got from our chat last time was you spoke about the fact that when you've never ever doubted your bike, under you, and that was because of your mechanic that you.
Yeah, I had a Kiwi mechanic for nine years. Yeah. 2001 through end of 2009. Yeah. So Craig Bell, he was from New Plymouth, and we didn't go over there together. He went at the beginning of 2001. I didn't know the guy from the next guy on the street. And then we sort of got hooked up, and our teams sort of amalgamated, I guess you'd call it, or merged together. And he was on that team in Germany, and then we hooked up together, and he became my mechanic, and we forged a really good relationship. Dad had done most of my stuff in New Zealand prior to that, and if it wasn't him, it was my mentor at the time and coach, and he'd come to the big races in New Zealand, or at least help prepare for the big races. So then when I went over there and had a full-time mechanic and developed the relationship with Craig, it was phenomenal, the trust that I built up. And I didn't really realise it until probably 2010 when I had someone else on tools, and I was like, oh, this is different, like in terms of the way a mechanic would do something, like it was like, and you had to think for 9 years, I didn't question one thing. Never like, I don't know, it would be like getting your car, like right now, and you're going, oh, I wonder if the tyre pressure is right, or like, I don't know what people think about when they get in their car, but never once did that. Yeah, it's amazing, 9 years, like I built up that faith in him so quickly, and I guess that came from he is very methodical about what he does, and just very, very methodical. Yeah. Attention to detail was massive. Yeah, and so I was very, very fortunate to work with him for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So is he living with you like full time?
No.
When that's sort of happening?
Lived together first year, and then the second year it's a weird sort of a scenario. But I got hooked up with these South Africans, and it was a South African sort of managed and owned team, but then like a Kiwi rider and a Kiwi mechanic, and then an Estonian and I can't remember what nationality his mechanic was, and then a South African rider and a South African mechanic. It was a sort of a licorice, all sorts of people living in one house.
Oh yeah,
like this massive. What did Josh used to call it? I forget what he called it. Anyway, it was like a mansion. It wasn't a mansion, but like just the way it was with all these rooms. And, the palace. That's what he used to call it, the palace. And so we all lived there. So I kind of lived with Craig still, but it was a lot different of a scenario. It was like a big sort of, sort of dormitory setup, I guess you'd call it. And then we didn't live together from end of 02 onwards, but still remained obviously my mechanic and really close through that whole time. Yeah.
Cool. One other thing I do want to talk about is the Motocross the Nation. So I do want to talk about, it was 2010, the after party with the boys with the Gator. So you had Norm and Jaden come over. Was it 10?
7. Yeah.
Or was it 7, was it?
Yeah, there's lots of different years that you could tell stories like that. The Motocross of Nations is a very proud moment for me. Like it's the only time that you obviously wear a strip that's considered national colours, although it's not like you're just being in black, like the All Blacks are, or representing New Zealand in some national clothes, but you wear a certain amount of your riding apparel is black, and obviously national flag painted on your helmet and whatnot. So that was really special to me, that race.
And you've always been like really successful at it too.
Yeah.
Is that because of the passion you pour into it?
It's probably, I was just about to say, it's probably because I was always so proud to like try and achieve at that race, and just, represent New Zealand well. I didn't do it as many times as I'd like because it always falls at the end of the season, and maybe injuries or just whatever circumstances. I didn't
burn out different things.
Didn't do it as many times as I like, but certainly those races, in a way, they're they're in a different way. They're as special as some of my championships that I've won, just because they're single day events. But I hold a lot of pride in what we achieved as a team. You know, so once the gate dropped, I didn't race as a team member. I know that doesn't sound right to say that, but I was on board as being a team. But then when you race, it's not like you're sort of, you know,
working together.
Yeah, working together.
Yeah.
In saying that, Josh did, like, I was riding phenomenal one time, and he knew that, and he let me past. But you don't work together out on the track, you know. So I was very...
He didn't try and cut a few people off.
I was very immersed in the team part and the culture of, like, you know, a team environment.
Yep.
Up until the gate dropped, and I always was on a mission, but still in New Zealand colours, on that mission to represent New Zealand well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, like I wanted to do well, because if I did well, then New Zealand would do well. Is kind of my mentality towards it. Yeah.
No, so I do want to talk about 2015. So it's something that we'll go back and talk about as well. But there was a period there of injury and a big gap. But then 2015, there's BT and Cody Cooper's World Tour. So, like, can you talk about that? Like, in terms of that build up from being like full factory rider, but then you're here in New Zealand and you go off, and then we'll get to it, but you achieve like phenomenal results.
Yeah, well,
at that race again.
Yeah, I'd had like a bit of turmoil from pretty much 11, 12, 13, 14. It was just sort of topsy-turvy. I had at times had stopped racing and whatnot. And early 2015, I had that Japanese guy come and stay. I was actually working for Honda Japan, and he came out to stay here in New Zealand, and they sent out this trick bike for him. Like, it wasn't a full factory bike, but I had a lot of factory part, and I hadn't ridden a factory bike for years. And I rode it while I was coaching. I was trying to explain something to him one day. I'm like, mate, just give me your bloody helmet and I'll just show you how to do it. And I rode it, and I was like, wow, this is cool. Like, I'd like to ride one of these again. And then it really energized me, and I was staying pretty fit at the time. We were living at the Mount. We were sort of in between houses, and I was running a lot and staying pretty active, and then started riding more. And then I thought, I'll just have a bit of a sneaky sniff at a New Zealand round, and rode there and rode really well. And that was just straight off the couch, in terms of I was fit, but I hadn't done any riding off the couch. And then I thought, there's Motocross of Nation, as we just talked about, is pretty special to me. And I thought, well, if there's any chance that I could represent New Zealand, it's 6 months away. Maybe I just, put my head down and I could, represent New Zealand. And as it went on, the momentum started going. I could feel, if you're ever going to have a gauge, then Cody Cooper is your best gauge in the world to know if you're practicing fast, because he is amazing at riding fast in New Zealand tracks. And I mean, he's what is he, like 8-time MX1 champion in New Zealand, so in 2015 he was in his prime. And so I started doing a lot of practicing with him, and then it kept sort of snowballing. Dad got involved, and he was like looking after my bike and coming to the track with me. And so all of a sudden, like, I went from, sort of not really doing much riding apart from running and some TRX work, to all of a sudden I was like acting like a full-on athlete again. And I was put my hand up to represent New Zealand. They selected me. They were a little bit dubious. So they're like, what's going on here? Like, is this, are you up for it? I was like, well, if you select me, I'll make sure I am up for it. And I
find that crazy that they even doubted.
But I had, to me it was crazy as well. But like, you can see from their perspective that it was like, you know, like
Yeah.
you've stopped racing, and then all of a sudden you want to put your hand up for the biggest race. Like that goes against the grain of it. But I could feel during that winter that things were going pretty well. And then I did one race in Aussie, and I was right there straight away. I think I won one of the rounds, and I should have won the other round, made a mistake. So I was right there, and I could tell, well, if I just keep progressing like this, I've got a couple more months. I could be in with a sniff. And yeah, I guess it goes back to what we talked about earlier, is I never really was... I believed that in myself that I could go there, the preparation I'd done and the feeling that I was getting on the bike, that I should be able to perform. And yeah, went there, and I guess again, like just the stars aligned in a certain way. The team that Cody and I rode for, they used a lot of production parts. So what that means is that the bike that you can literally go into a dealership and buy, we massaged and modified those parts, right? And that team over there did the same thing. So when we got over there, I felt right at home on their engine package.
Oh, yeah.
And amazing, like in this day and age, a production bike that has a really good mechanic or engineer behind it, it can be really competitive with factory bikes. And I got... pretty much I did 3 starts over that weekend and pretty much got 2 whole shots. And I just rode like I was free, man. I wanted to just go out and perform and ride how I had been riding here in New Zealand. Yeah. And like I said, I'd had Cody as a yardstick.
Yep.
And I'd always, when you're in New Zealand, had him as a yardstick, and always gone back and been fast. So it was a good gauge to know that I was right on pace, really.
Yeah.
But crazy because people hadn't seen me ride for years. Like would have been 3 years.
Yeah.
Maybe longer.
And Europe wouldn't have seen you for 10
years.
years.
Just like long time.
Yeah, there would have been a heap of fans that you would have built up for your time at KTM.
Yeah.
That would have probably been like, oh, Ben Townley's coming back.
Yeah. There wasn't that much excitement probably because they probably thought it wasn't. It was never. No one ever thought that was achievable.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as afterwards there was, but not prior.
God.
Yeah. So that was cool. That was probably one of my standouts. I guess that I wanted to do something like that. Underlying doing something like that was always something that I think would have been a really exciting sort of project or goal to try and achieve. Like doing it on that type of budget, like it was pretty lean, real lean, man. But
where did the money come from to fund that? Did you fund it? Self-funded.
Yeah.
So
little bit from a guy.
You did a round in America on the way over too?
Yeah, so that was on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was the final round of the World Championship was the weekend prior in California. So I wish I hadn't done it, to be honest. Yeah? Well, it was a completely different bike.
Oh,
I thought it was going to be good. It probably was good for me to get in that scene and just, go through
to a track again.
Yeah, that experience at that level, but it certainly wasn't a good result. It was a real shame. I'm still gutted by that event because this whole crew, I think there was about 30 Kiwis, went on this boys trip.
Yep.
And I wish they'd been at France and not in just because I was a bit older, and I had the relationships with these guys. I still do now.
Yep.
What was I? Probably early 30s.
Yeah, I think we were
probably.
Like, 31 or something.
Yeah, so they, that was really cool to have them there. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Really cool to have them there, but I wish they'd been there 7 days later because that was a very special race. It was a shame Lucy didn't make it. I would love, for her to have been there. Mum and Dad were there, and a couple of good friends. The team manager that year, he did a great job in allowing me just to do what I believed I needed to do, and he just let me, basically be free to take the direction I wanted to.
Yeah.
So that was cool. I that's probably one of my proudest moments of my career, just because of what we achieved from what was a pretty outrageous sort of goal or mindset along probably 9 months prior. So.
Yeah. How cool would it have been if you'd had someone to document the whole thing?
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been really cool.
It would have been amazing.
Yeah, it would have for sure. Yeah, we documented it on phones, and it was a cool trip, man. Doing it with Cody, because like I said earlier, we have been mates for a long time, and come through the ranks together. And it's crazy to think, hey, what's that? 30 years later, and I still just went riding with him yesterday. Still grabbed his lunch out of his esky and ate it while he was out there riding to piss him off. And so it was cool doing that with him. We had a blast. Got to watch the All Blacks play in Cardiff, I think it was.
Yeah.
Cardiff. Is that Wales?
Yeah.
Yeah, got to watch All Blacks play in Cardiff, which was cool. And obviously New Zealand didn't do well in terms of like the outright result, but I obviously did really well, and that was like I said, I always went to that race with pride as a Kiwi. But if I did well, then
the team does well.
Well.
Yeah. Well, you're for a very long time. You have been the figure of New Zealand motocross on the world stage.
Yeah.
Like we're going back to 2001 when you went to Europe, and this 2015. It's like 14 years on, but through that whole period, you were the face of New Zealand motocross on a world stage. Like I remember coming in 2010 to Redbud and watching that race, which we spoke about a bit earlier, and the announcer straight away, like over the things, like, oh, the Taupo tornado, and his American accent. I was just like, how cool is that? Like, we're in America with all these like crazy Americans drinking out their red and blue cups and yelling out and everything, and then the announcers, talking about Taupo, like in New Zealand. I was like, "Fuck, that's pretty cool." So
it was a cool ride for sure. You don't realize it though at the time. I'm sure you were the same in sport, as you just got no comprehension for that because you're so
immersed in what you're doing.
You're immersed in analyzing what you did that day and how you can be better, and whether it's what you ate or how you slept or, if your shoes are the right size or whatever it may be, so you can be better, and you don't see that whole journey from the outside for sure.
Yeah, well, when you're at that elite level sport, everything's like next job focused. It's like next task. And it's like, it's ingrained in me as a person now. Like that's how I live my life.
That's right. Yeah.
Things can come at me from all different angles and different pressures and things, but I know that I can simplify it down to what's important and go, okay, that's my next task I need to, sort of do, and I'll do that and then do the next one. I'm sure
for a rugby player, it's very task driven because you probably go from one ruck, right? And then it's like, then it moves over there and then that process starts again.
Yeah.
And then if you remove it out, it's like a half a game. And if you go back, it's a game. And prior to that, you're preparing for a game. And as an athlete, you get into that mindset. And it's not a bad way to live your life, but it's certainly if you're able to grasp that concept, it certainly allows you to get on board and achieve what you want to achieve.
Yeah, it's interesting because you see, like even with my wife, like we struggle on a few things because she can't see it from that point of view. So like things affect her a lot more than me. Like you get pretty thick skin. Everyone has judgments and whatever on through sport and social media, whatever. So you learn to like block that stuff out and just focus on tasks. But when you haven't had to do that, like it's a learnt skill. Like things affect her and people say different things. Oh, she gets all pissed off, and most of it's directed at me. Through my career, and people say whatever, and that it really affects her, like way more than it affects me. But she hasn't learnt to, she hasn't had to go through it. Yeah, personally. So yeah, she doesn't quite understand. She's like, how do you just block that shit out? And it's like, well, you kind of have to. Otherwise, you just end up getting consumed by it. And then, if you run around trying to please everyone, you end up doing nothing but that. Like, and then you don't actually get
your task achieved.
Yeah. But no, it's cool. I do want to talk about. So you've got two boys, which I spoke to earlier, that like live and breathe the sport now. Like, is there any anxiety for you? I suppose I'll speak from my point of view because I've obviously had a successful rugby career, and now both my boys are, playing ripper rugby, like they're just starting out, having a go, getting involved in it. But I really kind of almost try to hide myself at the games because I don't want them any expectation to be sort of lumped on then straight away. Was that something you had to deal with the boys racing?
Yeah, I guess there was an element of that. But probably the hardest thing for me now is that they are becoming successful quite early on, but it needs to be for them. Like I quite often hear the comments, his dad was good, they're gonna be good, but it doesn't work like that. And
they gotta want it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think early on, probably I just finished racing, and I love the fact that they enjoy their racing for themselves. Like they get that same joy and thrill from racing that I did. So I love seeing that. Whereas once it starts to get a little bit more serious, and it changes the game a little bit then. But still love seeing the buzz. That's the word I've been looking for, the buzz that they get out of it. Look, it's just part of, I guess we're going through an era now where prior to us, professional sport, or you didn't come from a professional sport parent background. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it wasn't professional, was it?
It didn't exist.
Yeah.
So
rugby was only professional for like 6 years before I started, or something like that. 7 years.
So now this is sort of a different generation that's coming through that. And, I think I've been prepared for that personally because I love the fact that they want to ride. But it's still at times I hear some comments and I think, man, that it's so far off the mark, and you just have to take that with a grain of salt, really.
Yeah.
Because if you, like we just talked about, if you get caught up in it, then you just sort of go stir crazy on some of that stuff. But I guess looking at the positive side of it, for me, it's really, really cool to see them doing something that they thoroughly enjoy, and they've got a real purpose for it. That's one thing with motocross, man. When you get it in your veins, it's like a drug, and it's hard to. That's it, man. You're on. You've got that buzz going, and it's hard to get rid of that. So that's got to be managed though, because you can see quickly how you can. Because I've been an athlete, I guess I know how, or an athlete in motocross, I feel like I have a pretty good handle on managing it for them and just making sure it's not too extreme. But if they want to be racers, and that's a very big if, we're sort of starting to give them the development of being ready for that, but still keeping it straight down the middle, that it still can just be what they do on any given weekend. Yeah. But not as pros type of thing. Does that make sense? So still just trying to keep that balance, I guess, really, for lack of a better word, just keep it balanced. And but there's a lot that goes into when I look back now and knowing what I know, I wonder how my parents sort of managed to get me in that position to achieve what I was able to achieve at a young age.
Because there was no blueprint for them.
And like the blueprint's completely there for my boys. So it'll be interesting because it seems like Levi's fully invested in following the blueprint, and then Jag's just I heard him say to you earlier, right? Did you say to him, do you listen to that? Or
he's like, sometimes.
Yeah. that sums him up. Like but that's cool because he's just like he is who he is.
Yeah,
you know?
he's Jason Anderson.
Yeah, man. Literally, because
Yeah.
he got the shirt flowing in the background.
Yeah,
He'll ride with his whole shirt untucked.
yeah,
But yeah, I sort of lost track where I was going with that. But they love it because they love it, not because I loved it. And I that's the coolest part about it for me, that they really love something that I loved, and we can have, share that same passion together.
yeah. Because I'm kind of going through, I suppose, the early part of that with my boys. I think, well, I know that I love rugby because that's what Dad did. So it was like I was around it, I was immersed in it. And now that I am a parent and I see my boys like getting that passion and loving it and enjoying it, it's because of what you portray. Like kids are creatures of habit. Like humans are creatures of habit.
Sure.
So they grew up just seeing, you would have oozed, that passion, that love for it.
Yeah.
They would have seen it like from the day they were born. So there's no wonder they get to that point. Like they get it, give it a go. And I know with like my boys, I couldn't care if they, they grow up to be professional players or if they just, want to do it like every, weekend like they do now. But I also know that just because of who I am, that there's going to be a point where they're going to get a lot of external pressure. Yeah. And I just want to make sure I get my timing on when I deliver that to them, so that it basically, because you want to protect your kids, and I don't want them to fall out of love with something because of external pressures and points. So I've never ever pushed rugby on the boys at all. I've actually suggested they play soccer and different things like that just to, see what they want to do. But it's rugby because that's what Dad does. So, which, I think all of us are that way. And, further through life, we do end up finding different things that we get into, but, it all sort of starts there. And if you fall in love with it, and your boys clearly have, it's very obvious to see, then, that's just making sure that, well, as parents, we always do everything we can to keep our kids happy and safe and and
it has
provide opportunities there.
A little bit already for me, in terms of I sort of realised that it is different than just buying a pair of boots and having a footy that you throw around. The investment
is a big financial investment, isn't it?
That's a small percentage compared to what we're into. We've got to have a trailer. Well, not have to, but you obviously firstly need the dirt bike and then the protective gear that goes with it. And then you've got to have the service, you've got to have to change oil and fuel to run it, and entry fees and whatnot. And I sort of really realised the sacrifices that my parents made quite quickly. And I changed my mentality a little bit with Levi in the last year, probably. What is he now? He's 10. Probably by the time he was sort of 8, I was kind of like, well, if we're gonna race sort of nationally now, there's got to be a certain element of commitment. We're not just doing it just to do it, to go through the motions of it, I guess. So to really sort of be clear on that. You can go trail riding in New Zealand every Sunday, and I love doing that. And I was like, well, if you just want to do it and you don't really want to put the same effort into what we're doing in terms of getting you there, then we'll just go trail running, because then I can have a lot more free time. But when you take this seriously like we are, then everyone's got to be on board with doing it serious. Does that make sense? I'm not putting pressure on them to do well.
No.
I'm saying if we're going to do this, we're going to do it properly type of thing. How I sort of started to see, just because of the investment, not just financially, but time and energy into doing it, for sure.
Well, I heard it when I spoke to him earlier. He's like, oh, Dad, like as a coach, it's like, oh, he sets a high standard for
Yeah.
us. But that's no different to me when I started playing rugby. Like I loved the game, but it was always I couldn't, just in life in general, Dad wanted me to have good standards. Like my parents wanted me to have good standards, whether it was my behavior or how I greeted people, like everything, I had a standard. So my sport had to have a certain standard.
I guess I'll take that back to last night. So at rugby training last night, right? So just so people don't take the racing part out of context, is that Levi had a pretty average end to their training game. And I was talking to him about how he plays at first five and how the ball had come out of the scrum. It was probably slow getting to him, but then the decision that he made, I thought was poor, you know. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the same type of decision that may be made in the motocross environment. No different. I have that high standard like you're talking about and hold them accountable for it, because it doesn't matter if you go on to be a professional in sport. You've got to do something professionally in life.
Yeah,
and
you're going to have a job.
Exactly.
Conversation.
That's right. And you have to be accountable and hold a high standard in life. Yeah. So that I just want to make sure that people listening don't think, oh, that's just really motocross mindset. It's just my mindset.
Yeah, it's just
in
life.
general.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was everything.
Yeah.
Growing up, for me, that's how I was brought up. That's how Mum and Dad brought me up. You use someone's car, for instance, like if we ever borrowed someone's car, whether it was Mum or Dad's when we were younger or a mate's or something, it had to go back in better condition than you got it. It was like full tank of gas, fully cleaned inside and out. Like that was how we were brought up. So everything was about a high standard, and especially if someone's going to give time to you. So for me, that was my rugby coaches. They're giving their time to me. So my way of having a high standard and showing respect for that was to give my best effort. That's what Dad wanted. So he's like, whether he coached me or someone else coached me, that was that. It's like they're giving up their time to come and help you play a game that you love playing. You show them respect by listening, by giving your best effort for what they want. So
I personally don't believe that's upheld enough in this day.
No, I think we're a bit fluffy on that sort of thing. Everything's a little, like I've dealt in the community rugby space with working in that space, and there's heaps of stuff about kids. It's all about participation. They want numbers back and this and that. But kids can like play what they want to play. Like we don't have to force them to play rugby or don't change the game of rugby. Like they're coming up with these new games to get numbers back in rugby, but it's not rugby if you're changing the game for them. And I just have this like pay and play model that's turned up. It's like that's everything that I value about rugby and that sport is it's all about the team. It's all about commitment. So the things that I learned from rugby from a young age was commitment through being in the team, respect, responsibility to your teammates, like all these awesome life habits that's what I got from the sport of rugby. But if all of a sudden you make this game that you can just turn up when you want, and if you don't feel like it, don't worry about coming. What are you teaching them?
Totally agree with it. Couldn't agree more. And that's why I have been quite adamant that the boys continue to play a team sport for those values that you're talking about and the life lessons that you take on board and continue into life. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, you'll see it. Those boys will, whether they get it in their rugby life or whether they get it in their motocross life, they'll transfer them over.
That's right.
While they're doing both, it'll cross in. Like so, they'll be what they learn in their rugby environment about respect and all that. They'll take over into their motocross life in terms of who's helping them on the day, different things like that. It's like, I'm going to go out and give my best performance because I want to. Dad's my teammate. He's my coach. He's looked after prep my bike. Granddad's here, Pop's here, whatever. Mum's here. She's made lunch. Like that's all part of. That's like your second five, your centre, and your fullback. You know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a big part of. I believe what that learning stage that my kids are going through right now is having that team sport, and I don't believe enough parents and the they get motocross. It is, man. It's like a drug. You just get hooked on it, and you're.
Well, I got hooked on it. I'd never done it.
Yeah.
You know, like I froth off watching it.
Yeah.
Like, So I can get that.
Once you sort of get trapped in there, you know, it's get a little tunnel visioned on it, you know, and so you got to be really careful with that. And I'm really trying to. I try hard personally to keep that perspective open for sure, and because I think a guy that coached me, he's paralysed, and he coached me, and he did some figures on it once when we did a training camp, and it's like 0.01% of riders that actually become professionals, you know, in our sport. So, you know, there's small numbers, so you've got to keep perspective, especially coming from New Zealand. You've got to keep a lot of perspective in there and not get too caught up in it. You know? So, and then, but on the flip side, like I said, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it properly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's funny, when you start talking like professional sport, and you talk about those percentages of people that make it, like rugby, it seems like there's, you know, I suppose a lot of professional rugby players in New Zealand, but to be a professional rugby player in New Zealand, you got to make Super Rugby. So all these guys playing Mitre 10 Cup that don't play Super Rugby, better ones of those players are making 30 grand out of there. You can't live on 30 grand.
No.
You know, so they've all got, but they're expected to perform at the level of All Blacks, you know, like when they're playing Mitre 10 Cup, that level it's not far off Super. Like I've done both.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, you know, like it's a big jump. It's not that big. Like, yeah, you see it so often. Guys go from Mitre 10, have a breakout year, go into Super, and they carve up. Like, you know, the jump is not as big as what people think it is, because our standard in New Zealand is so high.
Who is the winger for the Crusaders at the moment? Bridge?
Yep.
I remember watching him at the Main a couple of years ago, and Brian, my father-in-law, you know, he's a fucking rugby head.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying, man, he's got something there, you know, and then all of a sudden he's a Crusader, and then he's an All Black. I'm like, whoa. You know,
he was
like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy,
Yeah, it is, man. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. But then even when you nut those numbers down, I think 2007, when I officially became professional, when I made Super Rugby, there was 150 contracted players in the country.
Wow.
So you're talking like, I don't know how many people play the game, but it's well north of 10,000.
Yeah.
And that's just males that are outside of school age, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
And then and then there was 150 of us. It's a little bit, the squads are a little bit bigger now, but it would be 250 probably, like 50. Yeah, there's about 50 players a squad of Super. Yeah. So it's percentage wise, it might seem like there's more because, you know, New Zealand's not that big a place, and rugby's a big sport in our community, and I suppose you get that interaction with those people. You know, you see them. You know, you saw George Bridge down at the Domain, or you know, like that sort of stuff. But in bigger countries and bigger sports, you don't see that.
Give you know, experience of that. Like I just seen it from magazines or videotapes, and never once was able to reach out and get an autograph or
shake a hand,
you know,
or even just see how big they are. Like walk past them, like, oh, he's actually really tall. Or
that's
short.
right. Yeah. So like that is a major difference. Within these shores for sure with rugby, huge difference. Just the interaction that our game can have quite easily, or rugby can have quite easily with stars.
And I think rugby in New Zealand is really good at that. Like, I think it's ingrained in us. Like we tend to have, you know, all the guys that a large percentage of the guys that make it to the top have really good morals, and I feel that's come through what we were taught as kids with rugby, and that respect and responsibility and everything, and discipline and all that was ingrained in us through our upbringing of rugby. So we remember where we came from. We value our junior clubs that we grew up playing for. So we'll give up our time to go back and, you know, sign some autographs or do a jersey presentation. Like that seems to be quite a normal thing. But what I have noticed is that caliber of player in terms of giving back is starting to whittled down a little bit. Like there's probably less percentage where it was just the normal thing that everyone would do.
Yeah.
Now it's starting to get a little bit like there's certain guys that would not do that. So it's and I wonder whether that's because we're changing that space and what it's like. We're trying to make it more fluffy and everyone gets player of the day, and which I've got no problem with that, like personally, but I know some parents do, because my boys, Marie manages one of the teams, and the parents are like, no, don't give it to my son, he doesn't deserve it. But it's like, come on, the five, they're just starting to play ripper. It's, everybody gets a player of the day ribbon at, whatever week it is, and it might be, they might not have been the best player in the field, but they might have had their best game, and you can reward that. Like I'm all for that. Like but it's once you sort of start getting a bit older, like where the boys are at now, like Jag, Levi's age, 8, 10, that's when you probably there needs to be a little bit more. You've got to fight for what you want.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because then you're starting to teach boundaries, discipline,
That's right.
all that comes into it. And I think, that age you need to be starting to think that way.
Yeah, have an understanding for it.
Yeah, the quick fire questions that that popped up last time. So Coops wanted to know the nickname Damage, which I thought was a good one, because you mentioned about him being Gadget. If he was going to have a nickname. Coops is always like, what'd you say? He tested the iPhone for Apple.
Yeah, he's been there and done it all with every piece of technology. If there's something new out there, he's got it.
Yeah.
Damage. I think that refers to how it started. He had this remote control helicopter.
Yeah, that's what you mentioned.
It was a big mother of a thing, man. Massive.
Yeah.
And he brought it to America with him, or he got one in America, or I can't remember the total story, but basically he was flying it, and he's quite good with that stuff, technology. And and he had it out in the street, and I must have walked out this when he was living with me. Like, give me a go at that. It can't be too hard. I didn't even think the thing lifted off completely, and it was upside down in a million pieces. What a shocker that was. But, I'm a bit hard on the gear, that's for sure.
Yeah. Cool. And you are a big fan of footy, so I do want to ask you, like, who's your favourite rugby player?
Probably Jeff Wilson.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I was a big just because of the multi-coder, multi-sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably Jeff Wilson. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, he was. I think that for me was pretty special to see someone that could do that. Like that was rad.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, eh?
Yeah, very rad. Yeah.
Favorite track?
So Jag just asked me that today.
Did he?
Yeah. I probably Redbud.
Yeah.
Just because it's like the epicenter of American motocross, and there's something very, very cool about that event. Yeah. But the track is obviously the center of that event, and the standard of what they've built there now, that family, because it's privately, it's like American tracks, it's a different how it's done there. Like there's no club. It's privately owned, all of those tracks.
Okay.
Yeah, so you don't have a club involved. So they've taken the standard and lifted it year on year there.
Yeah.
So it just attracts. Obviously, 4th of July is a massive weekend in America. There's a lot that sort of really combines to make that so good. But certainly the track for me is wicked. It's flowing, but it's not fast. It's got big jumps, but not unsafe jumps. It's got, soft dirt. It's the way they prep it, the moisture. It's it's not too humid there.
Yeah.
It's probably, but then Isle of Wight. Probably Isle of Wight. I guess that was or would be one of my top 3, because I was raced there for 2 years and never lost there. So.
Oh yeah.
But I love the track as well.
Whereabouts is that?
A small island off the southern coast of England.
Oh, yeah.
So I raced there in 04 and 05.
Yeah.
And won both times in 2 different classes.
Yeah.
that was cool. Taupo obviously is very special to me.
Yeah.
Love racing there. Taupo has changed a lot over the years. The property has been, what do you call that?
Well, they put the expressway
Yeah, the
through it.
expressway. So like it's been halved or downsized a lot. But the dirt is so different to anywhere else in the world. It's so unique. It's not very often that you can say there's a track that's a one of a kind.
Yeah.
And then because of the soil, that pumice, it blows people away. And when you show them a rock that floats on water, they're like, "Whoa, what's going on there?" For international people.
Yeah.
So pumice, it's such a unique soil, and you've got to have a really good feeling to obviously, I grew up doing that, so it feels pretty natural to me. So, and then obviously Belk Road was pretty.
Yeah.
That was a very, very cool track. Belk Road.
Is that because you got to?
Oh, just the lay of the
shaped
land,
it,
and I had a pretty good eye for that thing by then. But for that sort of thing by then.
Yep.
And then I literally got to be in the machine as well. So I guess there's a numerous amount of things that go into that, but the lay of that land was just phenomenal, eh?
Yeah.
The way that was just up and down dale, and we could jump into certain areas of it and jump out, and that race that went all the way down the middle, and that was a cool track.
Yeah, so Belk Road was a property that Ben owned for about
2010 for about
3 years, 4 years.
4 years,
Yeah, and it was a beautiful house, and it looked like straight out, and it was like this big undulating gully,
Valley,
Yeah, like a valley,
Small valley.
It was
Couldn't see anyone else.
And it was all native bush around the top of it, So bikes used to just echo in there, It was pretty cool.
It was like it was a motocross rider's paradise, that place.
Favorite race of all time?
Well, that's I put
too
one
many.
on that 2015 for sure. It's up there. 2005, the Motocross of Nations, same
venue?
track. Yeah. Those two pretty special. 2002 in Taupo. It was the first time I rode a big bike ever. Raced the big bike.
Yeah.
And ended up winning. It was right at the end of Daryl and Shane, the tail end of their career, and when Josh was starting to get into his prime, and I won that day.
Yeah. It was Josh racing too.
Yeah, all of us. The only time that all four of us, you would call us the big four in New Zealand motocross, the only time that we ever raced all four in one moto. Yeah.
Well, if you had five of all, Coots would be.
Yeah, he wasn't really
not internationally
at the time then. Yeah, he was just starting to go international at the time.
But he was on a 125 back then.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't have been in that race then. There was end of 02. Yeah. So that was a pretty cool day for me, that one. Yeah, especially in racing in Taupo. And it was because Josh and we were racing internationally, so we were getting a lot of exposure, and there was a good sized crowd for New Zealand. So, New Zealand size. That was cool. But there's lots. 2004, obviously winning the World Championship in Ireland. I won that day as well. It's hard to put to one. If I really had to say, be 2015, and I didn't even win. So it goes to show how special that day was.
Yeah. Hell of a journey, to get to that point. It was cool that you shared that with us. So I'm looking over your shoulder there at the KTM and the Kawasaki. So there are two championship bikes. If you had, and they're both 250s. If you had to pick one to race, which one would you pick?
I don't know if anyone's ever asked me that before. I really like the quite different bikes. Like the KTM was obviously the prototype, and it was almost built around me or under me type of thing, so I had a lot of influence on that. Whereas the Kawasaki, when you go to that team pro circuit, you don't have really any influence at all. I had more influence than most just because of my age and the respect that they had for me, just purely because of my age and experience. But they're very, very different bikes. Oh man, that's a hard one. Probably I don't know, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were both very, very
Yeah.
good bikes.
Or just flip a coin.
Yeah, you'd have to, I think, because they were, like I said earlier, I mean, they were,
Like a cheetah bike.
you felt like that, like they were
Yeah.
so good, and everyone knew, how good they were as well, especially in 2007 when there's two of them, you're like, that
Yeah. When two of them are doing that, it's like, hang on, what?
yeah, they're racing for third.
Yeah.
That's basically what they're doing.
Yeah. So those races when you two were like just dominating, what was the gap back to third normally?
Massive.
Huge.
Like just under a minute.
Oh yeah.
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 It was, at times. Yeah.
Do you reckon if you boys jumped on those bikes in the big class, would you have been able to top 10?
Oh, that's always a really interesting discussion.
Because what is the
argument.
horsepower difference?
What's the start?
Okay.
It's the start. That's the big difference.
So
Especially
if you could get the start.
We'll
then,
see at the end of that year. That's a really interesting question. So at the end of that year, the Motocross of Nations was in America.
Yeah.
And Villapoto flogged everyone.
And he was on 250.
Yeah. Flogged everyone.
Yeah?
Yeah. Even Ricky.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's when Adam and Jaden came.
Yep.
And when things got messy.
Yeah. What happened with the gator? It ended up in the pond?
Oh, yeah.
Pond?
Tense. There was this, I think it was a drag strip where they parked everyone. So it was like a sort of a motorsport area. And we started driving around and it was late into the night. And I don't know who, I'm not going to name any names, but someone decided, well, we'll get over here and have a look. And as we got up to the edge of this cliff, someone said, oh, everyone jump out. And then
and the gator went.
the gator carried on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I knew something happened to a gator, but I never actually found out, so that's good to know. Yeah. No, that's cool. All right, that's some good topics there, bro.
Yeah.
Some great content.
It's been a pretty cool life that I've been able to live so far.
Yeah,
it's very
wicked.
cool. It's certainly, I don't know if you can say the same, but being an athlete, it doesn't really feel like a job at all. There's certainly some tough times when you go through periods of injury and what the sort of how deep you can go into yourself and wonder if you should continue doing this. Certainly for me, that was some hard times there with injuries for sure. But I guess on the flip side, the enjoyment and when you have achieve your goals and succeed, and how that sensation feels totally outweighs it.
Yeah.
The dark times for sure.
Yeah, well, a mate that I played rugby with I listened to him today, and he went on a podcast, What a Lad podcast. So shout out to Jimmy Marshall, and he spoke about like enjoying the process. So he's a player, Tavita Kalua-Matangi. He's a player that's had a lot of injuries,
right?
But he's just he just said it like, for the young guys out there, if you want to achieve something, just whatever, just push hard and enjoy the process. So whatever happens, like if you get an injury, enjoy the process of getting back to a point from there.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I saw that in you with 2015. That was the process, and you enjoyed every part of that. And then you got the result at the end of it. You had a little goal that you wanted to achieve. Sort of, I guess, world success from here, and you did it. And I was there in some dark times with injuries, and I knew that I would see you race again. And even though at the point of time you're like, nah, this is me, I'm done. But I just knew that you love that process. Like, you love being able to push yourself and get yourself to a point. And motocross is young man sport. We've spoken about it earlier about the window being so small at the top. Like, you had, you've had injuries and ups and downs, but you talked about Motocross of Nations 2005 and then 2015.
Yeah.
Like there's a 10-year gap. Plus you'd won the world title before that, you know. So that's a massive, massive range. And when
is a big range for a motocross rider. For sure.
when we were talking about, you know, the list, like Dungey, Villapoto, Carmichael, like those guys, they're like 3-4 year little runs, aren't they?
Well, especially Ricky was the only one that did it longer than sort of 5 years. Yeah. So a run in motocross is a pretty short span, especially when you get to racing the 450 class for sure. Yeah.
The next best is never too far away,
Yes,
are they? They're just they're coming.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, you know, that's happening. You know, that happens every year now.
Yeah.
You know, especially it probably happens in a different way now because it seems that the riders probably graduate to the 450 class later, so they've got more experience. So when they get there,
okay, so they're doing longer in the 250.
Yeah, they're legitimate
title
threats,
contenders.
Contenders from the get go. You know, So that probably is one thing that has changed slightly now in the sport. It used to be a bit of a rush, you know, to get to earning that money in the premier class, whereas now there's good, you know, money to be earned throughout that 250 class, and so riders tend to hang on longer, get themselves prepared, so that when they do get that opportunity, they are ready to go. So that certainly has changed.
And do they do that too to try and line themselves up with a good bike when they go up?
Yeah,
so they won't just jump at a bike. They'll be like, no, I want to push here because I want to get on one of those top teams.
Yeah, if you can control them. Yeah. And again, timing, because it depends. Like you can have
big team might come at you.
Yeah, and most factory teams operate with 450 teams operate with a 2-rider setup. So timing around when one person may be out of contract, and you know, if you've got 2 guys that are on contract at the same time, they're generally on a 2-year contract.
Yeah.
So you may have a team that doesn't have any spots available for a couple of years, you know. So that timing can be critical as well, and also even the technology timing. Like just as for an exact example, Honda have just come out with this, and Honda always have the spin, but every sort of 3 to 4 years they have this revolutionary bike that's coming
they
out.
went to the twin exhaust.
Yeah, exactly. So like in 2009, they came out with the first ever fuel injected motorcycle. Yeah, and it was a bit of a dog. And it was like 2009, 10, and it got better. 11 and 12 was when I rode it. And the thing was just, I still rate that now as my favorite bike I ever rode.
Oh yeah,
it was so good. But then in 13, it changed again, and it took 14 and 15 for it to come good again.
Oh, yeah.
So what I'm saying is, like, if you in 2009, that bike wasn't a bike to be on.
Yep.
But it was
you're on it then too.
It was touted as being a very, very, very good bike, but it just wasn't. Whereas, so if you
look here at these 2 behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got on those at the right time.
The right time. Yeah. Again, like I said, that all tonight, I've said it a few times, timing is important with those things. But certainly if you're transferring to that 450 class, and that happened to me, you know, when I transferred onto that 450, it just wasn't the bike that it needed to be, you know, and so it cost me probably a significant amount of points at the start of that season, just you know, so, and especially on a 450, because 250 you can ride around a lot of issues, but a 450
too much grunt.
Yeah, there's a lot going on underneath you, and you've got to it's all got to be working well to be able to maximize it. You know, otherwise you're just a passenger along for the ride. So.
Yeah, sorry to jump back though while we're actually wrapping things up, but going from the 450 class in Europe and then jumping back down to a 250 in America, what was that like? Going down in bike power.
Well, it was.
Well, that thing obviously didn't have any less power.
Yeah, it was seen as the thing to do.
Oh yeah.
I didn't have a lot of Supercross experience.
Yeah.
So
did you have an option to go to 450
yeah,
straight away?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
with Honda, but I was convinced that going to that Kawasaki, the Pro Circuit Kawasaki team, was just the guidance of Mitch Payton and Bones, who's the guy that he was
legends of the sport.
Yeah, they were, and it was. So I listened to that advice, and it was certainly the right thing to do. 450 is just a lot of bike. I have no doubt that I could have been competitive in motocross right away, like really competitive. Ricky was still right at the tail end of his dominance. I wouldn't have beaten him, but I would have been,
You're on everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. I would have had everyone else, I'm pretty sure. But Supercross is just a whole different ball game, and riding it on a 450 would have been a big
scary.
ask to try and navigate that and go through that process on a 450.
Yeah.
I don't think there have been many people that have done it. Chad Reed rode both 250 and 450 in his first year there.
Shit.
So he raced the 250 for a number of rounds,
and then went up to the 450.
And he was competitive for sure.
That would have been in the two-stroke days?
Two-stroke days, yeah.
So he would have gone 125 and then on a 250 two-stroke.
Yeah. Shit. Yeah, so it's pretty unheard of to go straight into a 450. It's just
he would be a Supercross dominant rider.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say.
Over motocross.
Yeah, you have to have that skill set pretty well in play to think that you're going to be able to ride a 450 straight off the bat. Everything is just absolutely just maximized, all of your obstacles are so close, your corners are there, everything just has so much intensity added to it compared to a motocross track.
Just to wrap it up, BT, it's been a pleasure to be involved in your journey and to be able to, I guess from a fan's point of view, from a mate's point of view, I've really enjoyed, sharing your successes and being there. And Redbud is one of the highlights of my life. I say that in all seriousness too. It was one of the coolest experiences that I've ever had. Being there and at such a big stage and having something invested in it. I would have loved to have gone to that event anyway because I was a fan of the sport, but to be there and to see you be successful and get on the podium that day. I've still got the bottle of champagne that you won for third. Yeah. That's in my shed at home. So, that sits proudly on the windowsill there. So those are very fond memories that I have, and many late nights or early mornings watching you race through Europe in the early years, and in 2015 as well. So I want to thank you for what you've done for our country and for me as a fan. And I've really, really enjoyed it. And I want to thank you for coming on and giving up your time again. It's been awesome to catch up again and share some yarns. So
yeah, it's cool. Thanks for having me on it. I've done a few of these things internationally, a few podcasts internationally, but never done one. And obviously it's different and it's quite special doing it with someone that you know and have a relationship with as well, as opposed to just being something generic, because you've been able to talk about some of the experiences in detail that you've been there along the way to see as well. So that's been cool. And I think just for me, for our sport to have this opportunity to sit down and have a yarn about our sport and talk about the differences, and hopefully for a whole different listener to be able to listen and get an understanding of something other than rugby.
Oh, and appreciation.
Appreciation, because it's there's no denying that rugby is our first and foremost in New Zealand, but it's cool to be able for you to be able to now take that platform that you have and share other people's stories. I think that's really cool, and what was exciting for me to do this with you. So it's been good.
Thank you very much, BT. So, and also I'll have all Ben's links through my website with the show notes. So his Instagram will be there, and I'll post it up on Instagram and stuff anyway. But yeah, he's also doing some awesome stuff with BT Tours once the borders open back up. So I'll have links all through to his website so you can check that out. And yeah, he does a great job of showcasing our country in the best light, and I think it's really cool. So yeah, thank you very much, BT.
Cheers,
Legend.
mate.
Shot bolt.